Chapter 50. The young Yang-Wu, who was wrongly imprisoned, should have been in a situation where he would be tortured to death. However, major events happened one after another in the prison, which gave Yang-Wu a chance to breathe. He had already taken the opportunity to become stronger. As long as he had the chance, he would get rid of the identity of a prison slave. He would never stay here forever. Now that the wolf demon had rushed into the 7th district, Yang-Wu didn't want to pay attention to it. However, when he saw so many prison slaves being bitten to death, he couldn't stand it anymore. In addition, he also wanted to use the wolf demon to temper his current strength. That was why Wan Lanxin saw the scene. Wan Lanxin was not shocked by Yang-Wu's combat strength. She was just happy that he was still alive and well. After Yang-Wu killed the wolf demon, he felt that someone was watching him. He turned his head and looked in the direction of Wan Lanxin. The beauty riding on a leopard made him a little absent-minded. Among his companions who grew up with him, he liked the little slug who had followed him since he was a child the most. In addition, he listened to the words of this sister in front of him the most. She was forthright, enthusiastic and generous, like a big sister. More importantly, he liked to look at her perfectly developed body. For him, who used to be a little kid, it was a fatal temptation. Wan Lanxin didn't have time to talk to Yang-Wu. There were still wolf demons scattered around to devour people. She raised her spear and shouted, "Kill the wolf demons!" Wan Lanxin took the lead. She urged the leopard to quickly assassinate the nearest wolf demon. Yang-Wu didn't want Wan Lanxin to be hurt. Although she was in the general realm, the number of wolf demons was increasing. He had to share some of the pressure for her. He shouted at the prison slaves who were fleeing in all directions, "Who can work together to kill the wolf demons? I, Yang-Wu, will take all the food for 3 consecutive nights." Yang-Wu had the black gorilla's red steel ore, and the red steel ore could be exchanged for food. This was a great temptation for any prison slave. Although most of the prison slaves in Division 7 were martial soldiers, it was not easy to dig out a piece of crimson steel rock in this area. It was not something that could be solved by just having martial strength. It wasn't easy for Su Jiaohua to become the leader of the puppets, and she didn't want to die like this. Naturally, she immediately responded to Yang-Wu's words, "Everyone, listen to the young master. Tonight we can roast wolf meat." At the mention of roasted wolf meat, the eyes of the prison slaves shone brightly. They stopped running away, raised their crowbars, and surrounded the demon wolf. "Kill these beasts and we'll have meat to eat tonight." "That's right. We have so many people. Why should we be afraid of them? Let's kill them." In the blink of an eye, the prison slaves split into several groups and charged towards the demon wolf. They had already accepted their fate, so what was there to be afraid of? These prison slaves had indeed greatly reduced the pressure on Wan Lanxin and the prison guard. Yang-Wu wasn't idle either. He charged towards Wan Lanxin. Even if her cultivation level was higher than his, he was still a man. Wasn't it natural for a man to protect a woman? More and more demon wolves appeared. A powerful wolf general appeared. It had obviously reached the intermediate demon general level. It continuously bit and killed several prison slaves, and 2 prison guards were torn apart by it. After killing 2 demon wolves, Wan Lanxin charged towards the wolf general. The wolf general spat out a green light from its mouth. It charged towards Wan Lanxin like a sharp blade. The power of the green light was extremely domineering. The spear in Wan Lanxin's hand glowed with a blue light. She moved elegantly and met the wolf general head-on. 3 consecutive strikes from the spear shattered the intermediate wolf general's attack. Wan Lanxin was only at the beginner demon general level. It was already quite impressive for her to be able to fight against the intermediate demon general. Wan Lanxin's delicate arms were trembling. She thought to herself, "It's really not easy to fight someone who's at a higher cultivation level. Looks like I'll have to fight to the death." She gritted her teeth and jumped up from the leopard's body. She used the combat weapon in her hand to press down on the intermediate demon general that was charging towards her. Wan Lanxin charged at the wolf general again and again with her combat weapon. The leopard wasn't idle either. It had been waiting for an opportunity to strike. Once it had the chance, it would attack the wolf general and successfully pin it down. Yang Wu was getting closer and closer to Wan Lanxin. Those demon wolves that were charging towards him couldn't even last a single strike from his palms. They were all killed or severely injured by his palms. Right now, his strength was unimaginably dense. It seemed that those who weren't at the general level wouldn't be able to cause much harm to him. Before a demon wolf that was trying to bite his buttocks could bite him, he already had eyes at the back of his head. He sensed the demon wolf's sneak attack. He struck out with a dragon swings, its tail palm print with a spiraling force, sending the profound essence chi into the demon wolf's mouth. The demon wolf's mouth was bleeding and its teeth were broken. Woo woo! The demon wolf fell to the ground. It kept twitching and screaming. It had already lost its ability to fight. It was enough to show how terrifying Yang Wu's palm strength was. Damn the chains. Without these restraints, my speed can be increased by at least 2 or 3 steps. Yang Wu cursed in his heart and continued to speed up. When he finally got close to Wan Lanxin, he saw that her shoulder had been scratched by the wolf general. The spear in her hand fell to the ground. The situation became critical. Yang Wu was furious. He rushed out like a lion pouncing on a rabbit. He actually used all his strength to hold the wolf general tightly. The strength of his palms was at its maximum. His anger and fighting spirit soared to the sky. He roared, "You hurt Sister Lanxin. You deserve to die." In Yang Wu's peach stone dantian, the mist of the 1,000 orifices surged. The 12 standard meridians, 1 extraordinary meridian, and 81 acupoints burst out at the same time. The primordial profound essence chi gathered in his palms, forming the locking wolf momentum. He strangled the wolf general and rolled it to the side. Yang Wu's arms were wrapped around the wolf general's body. He really wanted to strangle the wolf general to death. The wolf general's strength was very strong, not to mention that it was a middle-level wolf general. It kept releasing its demon chi, trying to shake Yang Wu away. Its front claws kept grabbing at the air, clasping the ground. It wanted to stabilize its body and eat Yang Wu alive. Unfortunately, Yang Wu had already let go of it, allowing it to crash into a sharp-edged rock. Bang! The wolf general slammed heavily into the rock, causing it to break into pieces. However, the wolf general did not suffer any serious injuries. The wolf general quickly got up and rushed towards Yang Wu angrily. It opened its bloody mouth, wanting to swallow this damned human whole. "Brother Wu, get out of the way!" Wan Lanxin had already picked up her war spear. Seeing that Yang Wu had just gotten up and had no time to save the spear, she shouted in alarm. Yang Wu seemed not to have heard her. He stepped on the ground, and the demon chi on his body floated. His cicada robe solidified, and his momentum reached its peak. There seemed to be a vague shadow floating behind him. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at Lang Zhan, who was running toward him. One of his hands was like a dragon fist, and the other was like a turtle palm. The fist and the palm were combined together, and he struck out with all his strength. The light blue power formed a force of almost 2 feet and collided with the wolf general. Dragon Turtle Sea Turning Technique. This was Yang Wu's strongest move, and also his trump card. The combat strength he exerted had already surpassed the strength of a top warrior, and reached the power of a general realm in one fell swoop. This overbearing power contained the power of the first embryonic chi. The power exploded and sent the wolf general flying. Some wounds appeared on its body, and blood quickly seeped out. Yang Wu was not able to kill the wolf general. When he was about to attack again, the wolf general had already spat out a green rainbow and rushed straight to his chest, shattering his cicada robe and causing blood to spurt out. Wan Lanxin did not have time to feel sorry for Yang Wu. She had already exerted all her strength from the side. The tip of her spear directly stabbed the injured wolf general. A bloody hole appeared, and the wolf general cried out in pain. The leopard bit from the other side, and the woman and her mount attacked the wolf general from both sides. The wolf general's life was strong enough that it could still continue to kill. It knocked Wan Lanshin away and bit off several pieces of the leopard's flesh. If this went on, Wan Lanshin and the leopard would be swallowed alive. Yang Wu, on the other hand, was rapidly recovering from his injuries. Like an unkillable cockroach, he once again stood up tenaciously. Again and again, he mobilized the aura in his body. The mysterious water chi underground and the mysterious chi of heaven and earth around him constantly seeped into his body. He did not care about accumulating strength and rushed over again. Once again, he struck out with the dragon turtle sea-turning skill. Its power did not decrease but increased, and it already somewhat resembled the prototype of the sky-turning skill. Yang Wu's body was like stepping on water without leaving a trace, and his arms were like dragon turtles swimming. Two light blue forces combined and intertwined, locked on the wolf general, and attacked without reservation. The wolf general felt a strong threat. It originally wanted to bite the leopard, but now it had no time to care about the leopard. It spat out a green light from its mouth and collided with Yang Wu's attack, making bursts of explosive sounds. "I must kill you!" Yang Wu roared fiercely and kept waving his arms. The majestic chi of profound essence in his peach core dantian was constantly drawn out. Wave after wave of attacks seemed to have no limit, which was extremely shocking. Yang Wu's peach core dantian was different from that of ordinary people. The power it contained was far more than that of a martial artist in the same realm. It was not difficult for it to be comparable to that of a martial artist in the general realm. Moreover, his highest 9 mysteries formula and dragon turtle water-suppressing stance allowed him to constantly absorb the chi of the outside world during the battle, which was his biggest reliance to prolong the battle. Yang Wu planned to kill the wolf general with one blow. If he couldn't kill it with one blow, then he would attack it twice or even 3 times. Until he exhausted all his strength, he would risk his life to kill this wolf general. The wolf general's blood was aroused and it fought with Yang Wu. Its strength was above Yang Wu's, but it had been injured repeatedly and its strength had decreased. Moreover, it couldn't fight for a long time like Yang Wu. The green light it spat out was weakening, and in the end, it could only use its physical body to withstand the attack. Its head hit Yang Wu's lower abdomen, and Yang Wu's fist and palm hit its eyes. Yang Wu's stomach burst, and the wolf's head was smashed by Yang Wu. Yang Wu was lying on the rocks with blood all over his body. All his strength had been completely exhausted. Seeing another wolf demon pouncing on him, he couldn't dodge and could only close his eyes and wait for death. A war spear flashed past like a rainbow and pierced the wolf demon's neck, nailing it to a rock and killing it instantly. A burst of fragrance assailed his nostrils, and Yang Wu fell into a warm and soft embrace. Chapter 51. Without another word, Wan Lanshin stuffed a healing pill into Yang Wu's mouth, fearing that something would happen to Yang Wu. She worriedly said, "Little brother Wu, don't be so impulsive in the future." Now, she couldn't tell what kind of feelings she had towards Yang Wu. Was it brother and sister or something else? In short, looking at his current appearance, her heart was pierced by a knife. Yang Wu swallowed the healing pill, and the profound formula in his body quickly circulated. The medicinal effect of the pill was quickly dispersing, quickly reducing his injuries. He was originally able to automatically recover, so with the help of the pill, he would naturally recover faster. "You're my sister, I don't want to see anything happen to you. Help me up, I'll be fine soon," Yang Wu said with a sincere smile. "Silly little brother," Wan Lanshin said with tears in her eyes, and then helped Yang Wu up. After Yang Wu sat up, he entered a state of meditation and said to her, "Go and deal with your matters, don't worry about me, I'm just weak." Wan Lanxin hesitated for a moment and said, "All right, then take good care of yourself, don't try to be brave anymore." Wan Lanxin was also injured, but she still had her duty, how could she rest? Even if she was injured, she still had to drive away and kill the wolf demons. Fortunately, under Yang Wu's encouragement, the 7th District's prison slaves seemed to have been injected with chicken blood, and worked together to kill the wolf demons. Many of the prison slaves were bitten by the wolf demons, but the majority of the wolf demons were still surrounded and killed. The prison slaves unknowingly shared the burden of Wan Lanxin, but unfortunately, there were too many wolf demons, and they appeared one after another, giving a feeling that they couldn't kill them all. At this moment, Yang Wu had already stood up once again, and the number of acupoints in his body had once again broken through 8, reaching 89 in one fell swoop. His battle prowess did not decrease, but instead increased. This kind of growth, speed, and physique could be said to be terrifying. As long as he could open 108 acupoints, he could become an advanced warrior. He wanted to break through this step as much as possible during this training. With the help of the healing elixirs and his own strength, his injuries had already recovered by 70%. He picked up the crowbar and recalled Sun Rue's advice to use the wolf demon to increase the power of the rainstorm spear art. Swift, fast, fierce, moves like a cunning rabbit, and moves like thunder. Yang Wu shouted loudly. The speed of the rainstorm spear technique in his hands became more and more ferocious. The power of the rainstorm spear technique also became more and more powerful. The more Yang Wu fought, the more ferocious he became. The crowbar in his hand seemed to have transformed into a long spear. The demonic wolves were all dead souls in his hands. His crowbar was bent and stained with wolf blood. It could be seen how intense the battle was. Yang Wu's usage of the torrential storm spear art was already at his fingertips. He had finally broken through to the perfect stage, and his battle prowess had once again increased by a lot. The practicality of a warrior's combat skills would give him a great advantage when facing an enemy. Not only could it make his attacks varied, but it could also increase his strength and defeat the enemy. When Yang Wu threw away the crowbar and prepared to practice the whirling wave palm, he suddenly heard a series of wolf howls. The terrifying sound waves of the battle continued to shock the surroundings. The prison guards, prison slaves, and the demonic wolves were so frightened that they trembled in fear. The power of the wolves was fully displayed. The formation of Meng Heilong's group of 8 was broken. 2 of them were ruthlessly bitten to death. 3 of them had either lost an arm or a leg. They were all seriously injured. The other 3 were also injured. No one would be able to escape unscathed. Meng Heilong no longer thought about how to break through to the King realm. Even if he had a broken royal weapon in his hand, he could only flee with a frightened expression. Survival was more important. Wan Tianlong's injuries had not fully recovered. It was already good enough that he could fight. How could he compete with the Wolf King? Seeing that the wolves were gaining the upper hand and that the mountain prison was about to be massacred, a human king suddenly appeared. No one could see what this king looked like. He condensed his celestial force into a pair of wings. He was like a rock descending from the sky, suppressing the Wolf King from the sky. This human king's celestial force was astonishing. He was like a god of war. His celestial force was extremely dazzling. His combat strength was also very strong. The moment he attacked, it was earth-shattering. Many mountain rocks exploded, withered trees and weeds were destroyed. Many demonic wolves were suppressed and died on the spot. If Lang Jie had not blocked the human king's attack in advance, more demonic wolves would have died. "Human king, how dare you kill my son? You're courting death!" Lang Jie roared at the sky. As he roared, some prison guards who had not retreated far enough were shaken to the point of vomiting blood. The powerful demonic aura even twisted a dozen prison guards who were already seriously injured into a pool of blood. This was clearly Lang Jie's revenge. Many prison guards were so scared that their faces turned pale. Little wolf, take your wolves and retreat. Otherwise, kill them all and roast them to eat, the human king said with a faintly discernible voice. The human king's tone was frivolous, but no one dared to doubt his strength. When a person entered the earth sea, he would become a king in the sky. He could transform into a pair of profound wings to fly. Who among those who could become a king did not have astonishing combat strength? However, this human king's tone was a little arrogant. He actually called Lang Jia Little Wolf. This was clearly not giving Lang Jia any face. Sure enough, Lang Jia was furious. He condensed his celestial force into a pair of wings and charged into the air to fight fiercely with the human king. I'll tear you apart alive. Lang Jia's vicious aura soared into the sky. His claws transformed into sharp blades and slashed down madly. The air was torn apart by his claws. The powerful demonic aura carried the sharpness of gold celestial force. Anyone who came into contact with it would die. The human king flapped his profound wings and moved like lightning, dodging Lang Jia's attack. At the same time, a fist condensed like a mountain and charged towards Lang Jia. The terrifying force swept up the profound qi in all directions, causing the sky to explode. The two kings fought fiercely in the air. Not many people could see the situation above clearly. They could only vaguely see the entanglement between the profound qi and demonic aura. The winner of the battle between the two kings would determine which side the victory belonged to. It must be that senior who made a move. Great! Lai Feng looked up to the sky and exclaimed. In the prison field, he felt that only Wang Jiucheng was at the king realm. He guessed that the figure above was none other than him. Wan Tianlong frowned and did not say anything. He was already planning a countermeasure in his heart. If it was really as Lai Feng said, that it was the fellow who came out of the blood pit, this did not seem to be good news for him. Meng Helong disregarded his injuries and watched the battle. His eyes were filled with desire. He hoped that one day, he could take that step as soon as possible and fly into the sky like them to fight. In one direction, Wang Jiucheng was about to leave with Li Ziying. However, after seeing that there were humans, he brought Li Ziying to hide and watch the battle. They are really powerful. Li Ziying could not help but sigh softly. Wang Jiucheng snorted discontentedly. When I recover to my peak state, I will kill them like clay chickens and pottery dogs. Li Ziying hurriedly flattered, Yes, yes. Master, you are the most powerful. The battle between the human king and the wolf king was very fast. The wolf king was not a match for the human king. The human king ruthlessly smashed the wolf king into the 7th district. This time, the prison slaves in the 7th district were completely panicking. The human king could not help but exclaim softly, Oh no, why did this beast get beaten there? The human king swooped down and his wings turned into blades that strangled Lang Jia. He did not give Lang Jia a chance to kill again. As for Yang Wu and Wan Lanxin, they were near Lang Jia. It was too late for them to escape. Lang Jia had already locked onto them and said coldly, This king wants to eat people to vent his anger. The wolf king leaped and dodged the human king's wings. He took the lead and bit at Wan Lanxin and the prison guards beside her. Wan Lanxin's face was as pale as snow. Leopard was so frightened that his legs went limp and he could not move at all. The other prison guards were so frightened that they fell to the ground. Yellow and white things were coming out of their mouth. When a wolf king approached, who would be able to withstand it? A young man rushed over and stood in front of Wan Lanxin, as if he didn't care about his own life. His tall and straight figure was so resolute and unyielding. If you want to eat my sister, you'll have to eat me first. Yang Wu's eyes were filled with determination as he shouted at Lang Jia. Brother Wu, get out of the way! Wan Lanxin cried out involuntarily. Lang Jia looked at Yang Wu. There was no pity in his merciless eyes. His bloodthirsty fangs had already enveloped him. Woof woof. At some point, a little hay dog appeared beside the youth. Its fur was taut and its eyes were wide open as it barked at the Golden Wolf King. The sound did not have any power. It could even be said that it was a little childish. Compared to the wolf's howl, it was a far cry. However, the sound was like thunder in Lang Jie's ears. It caused him to stop abruptly. He retracted his demonic aura and did not dare to bite the youth and the others. It was also at this moment that the human king's attack came again, and Lang Jie was sent flying with a fierce blast. Dust flew everywhere as the force of the attack attacked. The youth's entire body was in pain from being hit by the dust and gravel. However, he still stood firmly on the spot, protecting the woman behind him. Cruel Wolf was heavily injured and did not dare to act rashly. After it let out a cry of surprise, it stopped fighting the human king. Instead, it turned its head to look in the direction of the young man. Its gaze did not land on the young man, but on the little black dog on the young man's shoulder. With a hint of fear, it quickly fled. If the Wolf King wanted to escape, who could stop it? The human king seemed to have realized something. He looked back at the youth and shook his head gently. Then, he flapped his wings and chased after the Wolf King. Since the Wolf King had fled, the other wolf demons did not dare to stay. They frantically retreated, not daring to stay any longer. The prison guards came to their senses and chased after the wolf demons. The Wolf King was forced to retreat by the human king. "Let's kill all these wolf demons and avenge our dead companions." "That's right. Kill them. Otherwise, more of us will die if they attack again." A fierce battle quietly came to an end, but the mountain prison was already in a sorry state. The human king disappeared, but Wang Jiuchong appeared and killed a few wolf generals. He tore them apart and devoured them alive, causing the prison guards to believe that the human king was Wang Jiuchong. Just like that, Wang Jiuchong became the savior of the mountain prison. Under a withered pine tree, an old man drank wine and sang, lying drunk on the old pine tree, leisurely and carefree. Looking at the smoke of battle, looking at the vicissitudes of life, racial grievances hard to stop, hard to stop. Chapter 52. After Wan Lang attacked the mountain prison, more than half of the prison soldiers were killed or injured. Many prison slaves died as well. It could be said that this was the worst situation in the past 10 years. Meng Helong and the others took the opportunity to report this matter to the imperial court, so they left in a hurry. Meng Helong had wanted to take Wang Zong, but Wang Jiuchong was a living Wang Zong. He didn't have the guts to take him down. As for Yang Wu, he had completely forgotten about him. He didn't take him to heart at all. Wan Tianlong knew that after this, the mountain prison would probably be reshuffled. The imperial court would definitely arrange for new people to come. He didn't know if he could continue to be the warden. On the other hand, Lai Feng and Lai Ziying were the ones being chased. It was because Lai Ziying had a human king as his master. How glorious was that! Following this, many wardens and wardens would definitely defect to Lai Feng. Wan Tianlong's power would definitely be damaged. Wan Tianlong didn't have the mind to care about these things for now. As long as he was the warden, he had to manage the prison well. He ordered the merging of the prison districts from the 68th district to the 17th district. Reducing the number of districts also reduced labor and made it easier to manage. This was also a last resort. The number of prison guards was greatly reduced, and it would take some time for the imperial court to send troops over. As for the barbarian suppression army, they had been suffering losses for many years. It would be even more difficult to borrow troops from them. In this way, the districts nearby were merged. For example, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th districts were merged. For example, the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th districts were merged. In this way, the prison slaves in every 4 districts could move around with each other. New conflicts were bound to occur. However, after the Great Battle, the prison's management became stricter. No one dared to cause trouble in this place. Everyone calmly endured the days after the storm. Yang Wu, who was in the 7th district, didn't care about these things. After the battle with Wan Lanxin, he separated. As the warden's daughter, Wan Lanxin shouldn't be too entangled with him. Moreover, there were people who wanted to use this opportunity to cause trouble. Yang Wu and Wan Lanxin weren't stupid. They became much more cautious. Furthermore, they had witnessed the Wolf King's demeanor. They were still in shock and needed some time to calm down. When Wan Lanxin separated from Yang Wu, she still firmly promised that she would help Yang Wu get rid of his identity as a prison slave as soon as possible. Yang Wu believed that Wan Lanxin had done a lot for him, but he didn't expect too much. He was clear about his situation, and only by relying on himself would he have a chance. Ever since the Wolf King was forced to leave, Yang Wu had been in a state of meditation. Firstly, he wanted to completely recover from his injuries. Secondly, he wanted to use his gains from the battle with the Wolf King to break through his acupoints once more. This was to ensure that he could continue to improve. 3 days passed. Yang Wu had been sitting outside the stone house, standing on the dragon turtle water suppressing stance. The Sovereign 9 Mysteries formula was constantly running. Ever since he had absorbed the prenatal mysterious essence, the Sovereign 9 Mysteries formula could no longer be run under his control. If he deliberately ran it, the results would be even more powerful. The ground where Yang Wu was standing now had a puddle of water. No matter who saw it, they would be amazed. How could there be water on this dry mountaintop? After 3 days of meditation, not only had Yang Wu's injuries healed, but he had also broken through 99 acupoints in one fell swoop. He was only 9 acupoints away from the 108 acupoint. The chi acupoints in his body were like spirals. The power they contained was boundless and powerful, not inferior to any top warrior. In these 3 days, he had broken through 10 acupoints. If others were to find out, they would be shocked. However, he wasn't complacent. If he didn't need to use the power he absorbed to heal his injuries, he should be able to break through to the rank of a senior warrior. Little Hey Dog, you're here to steal my wine again. Get out of my way. This is all I have. I can't let you ruin it. Hey, that's enough. If you keep chasing me, don't blame me for not being polite. Don't think that I can't deal with you with my old arms and legs. I'm an expert who can capture dragons with my hands and trample tigers with my feet. Ouch, you're biting my butt again. It hurts. Yang Wu boy, come and save me. Do you still want to find a teacher for your brother? The only person who could stay in Yang Wu's stone house was Sun Rue, who was being chased and bitten by a dog. Sun Rue told Yang Wu 3 things. One was that he wanted to eat meat, the second was that he wanted to live in the stone house, and the third was that he wanted to find a beautiful woman to serve him. Yang Wu didn't go back on his words. After killing the wolf demon, he put away the wolf general and several wolf soldiers' corpses. He skinned them and dried them, leaving a lot of meat for Sun Rue. In addition, he let him live in the stone house and let Su Jiahua serve him. Sun Rue, this old man, didn't refuse. From time to time, he would take some wolf meat and roast it to eat. He also let Su Jiahua massage his legs and back. From time to time, he would sneak an attack on her butt, causing her to scream repeatedly. Yang Wu ignored Sun Rue's actions. He half believed and half doubted that Sun Rue was half an expert. He hoped that this old man, who was admired by his younger brother, could have some skills so that he didn't think so highly of him in prison. This old man was most afraid of Little Hay stealing his gourd wine. He could protect his gourd wine every time, but he couldn't protect his butt. He would often be bitten until his butt was blooming. Yang Wu had no choice but to stop cultivating. He walked into the stone house and said to Sun Rue, who was being bitten by Little Hay, Elder Sun, you've been drinking wine every day. I'm afraid you've already run out of wine. Just let Little Hay smell it and it'll give up. There's no need to keep pestering it. My gourd wine is hard to come by. How can I let a dog spoil it? Aya, hurry up and tell it to let go. Sun Rue said while shaking his butt. All right, Little Hay, come back. Yang Wu called out to Little Hay. Little Hay was very obedient to Yang Wu's words. It let go of Sun Rue's butt and quickly jumped back onto Yang Wu's shoulder. Its gaze was still fixed on the gourd wine that Sun Rue was holding tightly to. Its tongue was constantly moving in and out of its mouth. It was obvious that it was very greedy for that wine. Yang Wu reached out to stroke Little Hay and comforted it. When we leave this place, I'll get you a few jars of old wine to try. Why care about his inferior wine? Woof, woof. Little Hay barked in response. Sun Rue rubbed his butt and smiled. My gourd wine is immortal wine. How can your mortal wine compare to it? Little Hay barked again and looked like it was going to pounce on the wine again. Sun Rue was so scared that he quickly slipped out of the stone house. He didn't forget to say, "Stay away from that black dog. Cherish your butt." Elder Sun, were you the human king? Yang Wu suddenly asked. Little Wu, you have a good eye. You actually knew that I was the human king? Sun Rue turned around and responded. Then, he straightened his back and replied in a rather smug manner. Yang Wu looked at Sun Rue's sloppy appearance and sighed softly. If you were the human king, you wouldn't be here. I was thinking too much. 3 days ago, during the battle between the human king and the wolf king, Yang Wu, like everyone else, couldn't see the human king's appearance clearly. However, he felt that the human king's voice was a little similar to Sun Rue's. That was why he asked this question. Little Wu, what's wrong with your eyes? How am I not the human king? I just didn't show my face. Sun Rue said angrily. When he saw Little Hay pounce on him again, his legs were like they were smeared with oil as he quickly fled. Yang Wu slapped his forehead. He couldn't be bothered to pay attention to Sun Rue and Little Hay. He walked down the mountain peak and called Su Jiaohua over. Su Jiaohua quickly appeared in front of him. She wore a simple prison uniform that revealed half of her chest. It was truly a spectacular sight. No wonder Sun Rue was often taken advantage of. Su Jiaohua bowed and said sweetly, "Young master, are you looking for me?" Su Jiaohua looked at this extraordinarily handsome young master. Her heart itched unbearably. She really wanted to spend the night with this young master, but it was a pity that this young master didn't fancy a withered flower like her. You said before that the 7th region can challenge the bosses of the first few regions. You can use crimson steel ores as the wager, right? Yang Wu asked. Su Jiaohua nodded and said, "Yes, young master." After a pause, she asked, "Could it be that young master wants to challenge the higher-ups now?" Yang Wu nodded lightly and said, "That's right. Tell me about the bosses of the 6th and 5th regions." Su Jiaohua didn't dare to hide anything. She reported everything she knew to Yang Wu. The boss of the 6th region, Zhou Shuilong, was also known as the One-Eyed Dragon. His strength wasn't any weaker than black gorillas. It was rumored that he loved to drink fresh blood. There were strange occurrences of prison slaves being sucked to death in the 6th region. The boss of the 5th region, Hunchback King Bajin, was an old prison slave who had been in the prison for more than 5 years. He had accumulated enough crimson steel ores a long time ago and could go to the Death Legion to clear his name. However, this guy didn't do so. Instead, he chose to continue living in the prison as if he wanted to die of old age here. According to Su Jiaohua, these two people were both top-tier warriors. Hunchback King Bajin was already close to the human general realm. He was completely qualified to be in the top 3, but he didn't fight for it. I understand. Help me issue a challenge to both of them. I'll bet all the crimson steel ores I have. If they win, they'll take all the crimson steel ores. If they lose, they'll each get 20,000 crimson steel ores. Yang Wu said in a deep voice. Right now, he had 60,000 crimson steel ores. If he lost, it would be the same as losing all the wealth that Black Gorilla had left behind. If he won, he would be able to gather 100,000 crimson steel ores. Even if he had to pay 20,000 crimson steel ores more than the two of them combined, he didn't care. He was only afraid that the two of them wouldn't dare to accept the challenge at the same time. He wasn't being arrogant by doing this. After killing Black Gorilla and the intermediate Wolf General, he had the confidence to deal with the two prison slave bosses. Young Master, isn't this too hasty? You can just challenge one of them first, Su Jiahua said. She was afraid that if Yang Wu failed, she would be implicated again. Yang Wu waved his hand and said, "Go ahead and issue the challenge." Winning the Crimson Steel ores was a must, but he wanted to continue training his battle strength. Once he left the prison, he would have to lead the Death Legion that had a death rate of 80% to atone for his crimes. If he didn't have enough strength, it would be difficult to come back alive from the battlefield. He didn't want to die on the battlefield because he still wanted to be reunited with his family. He still wanted to find his childhood sweetheart and have children with him. Chapter 53. Yang Wu challenged the 5th and 6th ranked prison slave bosses. This news spread like a gust of wind in the new 2nd district. Who is Yang Wu? How dare he challenge two bosses at the same time? Is he out of his mind? That's something no other boss dares to do. I heard that he's the kid who killed Black Gorilla. Looks like he has some skills. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to do this. Does he really think he's a big shot? If those two bosses join hands, even the number 1 boss might not be able to defeat them easily. Who does Yang Wu think he is? We'll know in 2 days. I heard that the Death Legion will leave in half a month. Yang Wu must be in a hurry to leave. That's why he's doing this. Yang Wu's name spread like wildfire in the new 2nd district. Even if he died in battle, he would still be remembered by these prison slaves. Yang Wu did not pay any attention to these rumors. He was still practicing without a trace of harshness. The stormy spear art had completely entered the perfect stage. However, the torrential wave palm was still at the proficient stage. It would not be easy to enter the large success stage. In the past 2 days, in addition to practicing his combat skills, he also opened 6 more acupoints with the help of the Supreme 9 Mysteries formula and Dragon Turtle Water Suppression stance. He was only 1 step away from opening 108 acupoints. The night before the battle, Yang Wu and Sun Rue were roasting wolf meat. In fact, it was Su Jiahua who was roasting the meat for them. They were only responsible for eating. Su Jiahua cursed in her heart. How unmanly. Su Jiahua's cooking was good. Even without any seasoning, she could still roast the wolf meat until it was fragrant. Sun Rue said bluntly, "Come, little Woozy, little Hay, this old man will treat you to wolf meat. Don't be shy. Eat as much as you want." Yang Wu's face darkened every time he heard little Woozy. It was similar to how eunuchs called him. No one would be able to stand it, but this old man seemed to be addicted to it. As for little Hay, she couldn't take it anymore. She jumped over and bit Sun Rue. Sun Rue dodged left and right and shouted, "Little Hay dog, I'm telling you, don't bother me anymore. Otherwise, I'll roast you too." The more he spoke, the fiercer little Hay became. It was as if they were born to be enemies. They had never had a good time together. "Young master, here you go." Su Jiahua handed the barbecued meat to Yang Wu and said gently. Yang Wu took it and replied, "Thank you." He began to eat the wolf meat in large bites. The boundless energy contained within the meat was split apart by the profound art, and slowly seeped into his flesh, strengthening his life force. Spirit demons were born with strong physique. Eating them often could temper one's body and prolong one's life. This was not empty talk. If it was a powerful spirit demon, its meat would be a very good tonic. It could directly increase one's xian qi. Now, Yang Wu was eating wolf general meat, which contained a lot of energy. Being able to absorb a small amount was enough to strengthen his body. If it wasn't for his peach core dantian being too heaven-defying, absorbing this energy would be enough to increase his strength. Yang Wu ate a full 5 kilograms of wolf meat before he felt full. He then stood up and began to use the wave-splitting whirlpool palm. Waves of wind from his palms caused the air to crackle. The powerful whirlpool energy caused some of the nearby rocks to shatter. Su Jiahua couldn't help but applaud. In her eyes, this level of skill was very extraordinary. Sun Rue ignored Little Hay, who was biting into his meat, and picked up a piece of barbecued meat. He then looked at Yang Wu with disdain and said, "Fancy moves." Su Jiahua felt it was unfair for Yang Wu and said, "You really don't have good eyesight. Young master's palm techniques have already reached perfection." "Little girl, what do you know? Look at him. Aside from the fact that his stance is a bit interesting, his other moves are like a monkey wielding a broadsword. It's completely messy and not worth mentioning," Sun Rue commented. "You rotten old man, the young master has spoiled you. You really want to go to the heavens?" Su Jiahua cried out in dissatisfaction. After serving this old man for the past few days, she already had complaints in her heart. Now, she took the opportunity to vent her anger. "Little girl, you really don't know anything. Look at his palm technique. It's originally a water xian qi palm technique. Water xian qi relies on borrowing force to attack force, using softness to overcome hardness. Now that he's blindly walking the path of hardness, how can he grasp the essence of the palm technique? It's just a waste of this palm technique," Sun Rue said as he picked his ear. Su Jiahua said, "If you have the ability, show me a set and let me see. Don't you feel tired sitting down and talking?" Sun Rue smiled and said, "Just take it that I'm talking nonsense. Come and massage my legs. That little hay dog's bite hurts a lot." Su Jiahua turned a deaf ear to Sun Rue's words, but Yang Wu didn't. He listened carefully and began to ponder according to Sun Rue's words. He felt that Sun Rue's words were very reasonable. The wave-splitting palm was indeed a water xian qi palm technique. Yang Wu had always thought that this palm technique walked the path of hardness and fierceness. Now that he heard Sun Rue's words, he felt that there was indeed a problem with the direction of his cultivation. Therefore, he tried to change it. At the same time, he used the Dragon Turtle Sea turning technique to verify it. The Dragon Turtle Sea turning technique was also a water xian qi secret technique. It had long been imprinted in his mind. Yang Wu's palm technique was changing slowly, and his movements were slowing down. However, the rotating force was becoming more and more rapid. Faintly, there was an inexplicable flavor compared to before. Sun Rue looked at Yang Wu out of the corner of his eye. A faint smile appeared on his face as he muttered, "You're not too stupid." Yang Wu cultivated selflessly for 2 hours. The palm technique became more and more adept, and the palm force became stronger and stronger. It was as if the xian qi in his palm had formed a vortex with a powerful spiral force. When his palm landed on the rock, a palm print appeared on the rock and went straight through it. However, the rock didn't explode and shatter like before. Yang Wu stopped and looked at the rock seriously. Then, he smiled and said, "There's strength in the softness. Just as I thought." After a while, the rock naturally turned into a pile of powder. The palm technique had entered the stage of great success, and its power had reached a new level. Yang Wu wanted to thank Sun Rue, but found that the old man had already fallen asleep in the stone house. Yang Wu looked at Su Jiahua, who was sitting in a daze, and said, "Su Jiahua, serve Elder Sun well. You'll be rewarded." Su Jiahua thought that the reward was given by Yang Wu, so she immediately winked at him and said, "Thank you, young master." Yang Wu ignored Su Jiahua and waved at Little Hay. When Little Hay jumped onto his shoulder, he habitually stroked Little Hay's head and said, "Go and see what's wrong with Shou Ho and Little Man. You don't have to stay by my side all the time." Woof woof. Little Hay licked Yang Wu's palm and barked twice. Then, she jumped down from Yang Wu's shoulder and quickly ran in the direction of District 68. Yang Wu looked up at the dark sky and murmured, "I hope you're all right. I'll definitely take you away with me. I'll keep my word." Yang Wu had never been so confident. All of this was because he had grown through fighting and killing. He already had the heart of a powerhouse. Night fell and the sun rose, signaling the arrival of a new day. After Yang Wu absorbed the purple aura that he had to absorb every day, he began to descend the mountain. At this moment, although he was chained up, he still carried an otherworldly aura. This caused Su Jiaohua, who was following behind him, to reveal a mesmerized expression. After Yang Wu brought Su Jiaohua down the mountain, Fatty Dong and dozens of other prison slaves respectfully greeted them. "Greetings, young master." In prison, everyone was a prison slave. Who would dare to call themselves young master? Only Yang Wu would dare to do so. "From now on, you're all members of the Marquis Gang, and no longer members of the Black Gorilla Gang. You must remember that in the near future, your boss will come. When that time comes, you must still be respectful to him. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude," Yang Wu calmly said to Fatty Dong and the others. "Yes, young master," everyone replied in unison. After witnessing Yang Wu's strength, they no longer dared to question his words. Who could fight hundreds of people alone? Who could kill a black gorilla gang in one fell swoop? Who could fight a wolf general to the death? It was all done by this young man who had just turned 20 years old. This place that could trap prison slaves for their entire lives probably couldn't trap a young dragon like him. "You all know about my situation. I'm preparing to challenge Wang Bajin and Zhou Shuilong. Do you all want to come along?" Yang Wu asked the group of prison slaves. "We'll follow young master," Fatty Dong and the other prison slaves responded. They all wanted to see if Yang Wu could really fight two people alone and become the new boss of the second district. If he really won, they would undoubtedly have an easy time. If he lost, they could just choose another follower. It wouldn't be too much of a loss. Yang Wu smiled and didn't stop them from following. The group of people majestically headed towards Wang Bajin's mountain. This time, the location of the challenge was set at Wang Bajin's territory. Who told him to be ranked higher than Yang Wu and Zhou Shuilong? Yang Wu and his group hurried along. Along the way, many prison slaves saw them and began to discuss spiritedly. Is the young man leading the group Yang Wu? Is he really the expert who killed the black gorilla with his small body? It should be him. He's quite handsome. I don't know what he did to be suppressed and imprisoned. What a pity. Yang Wu wants to challenge Boss Wang and Boss Long at the same time. This battle can't be missed. Let's hurry over and see. 1 against 2. He's digging his own grave. Yang Wu ignored the idle chatter and went all the way to Zhou Shuilong's territory. This was the original 6th district, which was 1 district higher than the 7th district. The prisoners here were stronger. Yang Wu was blocked here. There were 100 prison slaves blocking their way. Among them, 12 of them had a ferocious aura. At first glance, one could tell that they weren't good people. Su Jiaohua stepped forward and negotiated. "Go Hu, what are you doing? Hurry up and make way for us." Go Hu was the leader of this group of people. He was also one of the 12 warriors under Zhou Shuilong. He was a 40-year-old man with a tall and strong body. He had a fierce tiger tattoo on his arm, which was quite scary. Go Hu looked at Su Jiaohua playfully and said, "So it's Su Jiaohua. Your body is still so attractive. If you don't want to die, come play with me. As for that kid who wants to challenge our boss, he's a fool." Su Jiaohua wanted to respond, but Yang Wu had already walked towards Go Hu. He waved the crowbar and smashed it towards Go Hu's head. Moreover, he domineeringly shouted, "Fight!" Chapter 54. In the former territory of the 5th region, there were 2 prison slave bosses sitting together. They were the hunchbacked bastard and the one-eyed Zhou Shuilong. Bastard's body was hunched over and he looked very old. He held an iron staff in his hand, which was inserted into the ground to support his body. It seemed like he would collapse at any moment without it. Zhou Shuilong was blind in one eye and had a black cloth wrapped around it. He carried a large blade on his back, and his entire body was filled with hostility. His teeth looked like he was about to bite someone at any moment. These two prison slave bosses were both top-level warriors. They were ranked above Black Gorilla, which meant that they weren't any weaker than Black Gorilla. They might even be a bit stronger. At this moment, a prison slave ran over to them and said, "Two bosses, Yang Wu has already made his move." He was stopped by Go Hu and the others. Zhou Shuilong gritted his teeth and said, "If he can't even get past Go Hu, then he's not worth our time. 60,000 Jin of red steel. You take 40,000, I only want 20,000. Bastard said weakly. "Brother Wang, are you not going to help?" Zhou Shuilong asked. "I'm old. I still want to save my strength and live for a few more years." Bastard replied. "Brother Wang, you must be joking. Since you don't want to help, then I'll help you take care of that brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. However, let's split the red steel." "I don't want to take advantage of Brother Wang," Zhou Shuilong said politely. He didn't dare to take Tortoise's words seriously. The two of them had fought before, and he wasn't a match for this hunchbacked guy. He felt that this hunchbacked guy could break through to the human general realm at any time. Perhaps one day, he would really leave this prison and head to the Death Legion. "I'm old, I don't have much use for this much red steel. However, the people below need to eat." Bastard sighed again. Zhou Shuilong's face twitched and said, "Since it's like this, I only want 20,000. Brother Wang, 40,000 is fine." Bastard's old eyes opened and he said with a smile, "Little Zhou, you're not bad. I have high hopes for you." Zhou Shuilong wanted to eat Bastard alive, but he had to keep a smile on his face. He didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. Another half an hour later, a prison slave hurriedly ran over and shouted, "Not good, two bosses, Go Hu and the others have been defeated." "What a bunch of trash!" Zhou Shuilong shouted angrily. He had come here alone and left his 12 Vajras to intercept and kill Yang Wu and the others. However, they had actually been defeated, which made him rather unhappy. At this moment, Yang Wu, Su Jiaohua, Fatty Dong, and the others appeared not far from Wang Bajin and Zhou Shuilong. Yang Wu dragged the crowbar with his head held high. There were still many bloodstains on his chest that hadn't dried yet. However, this wasn't his blood, but rather the blood of Go Hu, who was being dragged by his other hand. Go Hu was Zhou Shuilong's great Vajra. There were 11 other Vajras, known as Zhou Shuilong's 12 Vajras. Each one of them was at the intermediate warrior realm. They led 100 people to block Yang Wu's path, thinking that they would be able to slaughter Yang Wu. Unfortunately, they had seriously underestimated Yang Wu's strength. Yang Wu didn't waste any words with them and attacked from the start. Even if Go Hu was an advanced warrior, he still wasn't a match for Yang Wu. In just 2 or 3 moves, he was beaten half to death. Go Hu couldn't believe that he had become so weak. Even in front of Zhou Shuilong, he could take at least 10 moves. After Go Hu was captured, the others began to attack. Yang Wu was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. He waved the crowbar, displaying the perfect torrential spear technique without restraint. His attacks were swift and fierce, landing on the prison slaves one after another, beating them until they cried for their parents. Yang Wu's strength was too strong. Every one of his crowbars exceeded 10 Ding's strength. It was absolutely a sweep. The 12 Vajras weren't a match for Yang Wu even when they joined forces. They were all swept away in a single move. Zhou Shuilong's subordinates were all scared out of their wits. Their momentum was so frightened that it shrunk. Their previous ferocity was completely gone. Su Jiaohua and Fatty Dong took the opportunity to attack. Following Yang Wu's charge, the 100 people on the other side were no longer able to pose a threat. Yang Wu didn't want to waste time on these prison slaves. He carried Go Hu and dragged him to the location of the challenge. Although Wang Bajin didn't send anyone to intercept them, there were still many onlookers. When they saw Go Hu being dragged by a youth like a dead dog, their hearts tightened. He's Go Hu, the #1 Vajra under Boss Zhou. How could he be beaten so miserably? Looks like that youth is the one who challenged the two bosses, Yang Wu. He's really courageous. In front of the two bosses, he's courting death. B-boss, save me. Gu, who was lying on the ground while being carried by Yang Wu. When he saw Zhou Shuilong, he couldn't wait to ask for help. Zhou Shuilong looked at his number 1 Vajra and frowned at Yang Wu. He shouted, "Let him go immediately, or die." Yang Wu raised his head and looked in the direction of Wang Bajin and Zhou Shuilong. He shouted, "Yang Wu is here to challenge." After saying that, he threw Gu Hu in his hand like a human sandbag at the two people. Gu Hu was so frightened that he screamed. Yellow and white matter spurted out from his pants. A foul smell filled the air, making people feel disgusted. Zhou Shuilong wrinkled his nose and sent a punch through the air. A burst of Xian Qi sent Gu Hu flying to the side. The tragic Gu Hu was beaten to the point where it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. It had to be said that Zhou Shuilong was really a cold-hearted person. Zhou Shuilong stepped down from a high place and stared at Yang Wu with a pair of eyes that could kill. He bared his bloody teeth and said, "I've heard that the one who slaughtered the black gorilla was a young man. Now that I've seen it, it's true. I'm sure that your blood will be very delicious." "Of course my blood will be more delicious than yours. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to taste it," Yang Wu replied with his black hair flying. He paused for a moment and looked at Wang Bajin. He said, "Wang Bajin, Zhou Shuilong, I've heard that you two are the bosses of the prison slaves. Today, I, Yang Wu, officially challenge you. If you win, I'll give you 60,000 red steel stones. If you lose, you only need to give me 20,000 red steel stones each. Everyone here can bear witness." Yang Wu was full of confidence as he spoke. The female prison slaves all looked at him with infatuation. "Haha, what a big tone. If you give me 60,000 red steel stones, I'll give you a chance to become my subordinate. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving here today." Zhou Shuilong laughed wildly. "You have bad breath." Yang Wu pinched his nose and said seriously. Zhou Shuilong glared at him and said, "What did you say?" "I said you have bad breath. Please shut your mouth." Yang Wu emphasized again. "It's really smelly." Fatty Dong, who was behind Yang Wu, pinched his nose and agreed. "I'm going to faint from the stench." Su Jiahua also said while pinching her nose. They weren't lying. Zhou Shuilong really did have bad breath. However, this was his taboo. No one dared to say it in front of him. The consequences would be very tragic. "All of you, kneel down. Otherwise, you'll all die." Zhou Shuilong shouted with smoke coming out of his 7 orifices. "Don't talk nonsense. If you want to fight, then fight. Don't talk anymore. It stinks worse than a pile of shit." Yang Wu couldn't take it anymore. "You can go to hell." Zhou Shuilong's hair stood on end. He shouted and walked towards Yang Wu. His hands reached for Yang Wu's neck. Although Zhou Shuilong was grabbing with his bare hands, in fact, his claws had already condensed a bloody aura. It was like a pair of bloody claws that made people feel fear and difficult to block. Unfortunately, this amount of blood qi was nothing in Yang Wu's eyes. Yang Wu directly swung the crowbar and smashed it over. Yang Wu didn't hold back at all. A blue light covered the sky, containing a powerful force, and hit Zhou Shuilong's claws. Zhou Shuilong's claws collided with the crowbar. He was immediately whipped until his 10 fingers bled. He was in so much pain that he quickly retracted his claws. "How can this brat's strength be so great?" Zhou Shuilong secretly shouted. He no longer held back. After retreating a few steps, he drew his blade to kill Yang Wu. Yang Wu didn't stop Zhou Shuilong from drawing his blade. Instead, he calmly glanced at Wang Bajin, who hadn't made a move yet, and said, "Wang Bajin, you come at me together. You can defeat Zhou Shuilong." Wang Bajin didn't open his mouth. Zhou Shuilong was already furious and said, "You dare to look down on me? I'll split your head." "I already told you not to open your mouth again." Yang Wu glared at Zhou Shuilong and shouted. He swung the crowbar like a rainbow. He took the initiative and directly slapped Zhou Shuilong's mouth. Zhou Shuilong's teeth cracked and blood splashed out. His mouth was badly mutilated. It could be seen that Yang Wu's crowbar wasn't light. Woo woo. Zhou Shuilong covered his bleeding mouth and continuously retreated. Anyone who looked at him could feel the pain. Wang Bajin, who had been half knocked out, was now completely awake. He revealed a smile that was uglier than crying and said, "I'm old and can't compare to you young people. However, if you want to take 20,000 red steel stones from my hands, then I'll have to risk my old life and exchange a few moves with you." Wang Bajin walked over. At first, he walked slowly, but then he walked faster and faster. Where was his weak appearance from before? "Haha, you should have made your move long ago." Yang Wu gave a long laugh and raised the crowbar to meet him. When Wang Bajin and Yang Wu approached, he stomped on the ground. A deep hole appeared in the ground and sand and stone flew towards Yang Wu. This was a move to disturb the enemy. Yang Wu narrowed his eyes and spun the crowbar to sweep the sand and stone away. Wang Bajin's attack had already arrived. They were evenly matched. The crowbar in Wang Bajin's hand swayed left and right like a scale. It swayed and suddenly blurred, confusing people's eyes. The two balls of celestial energy were connected at the end. The celestial energy reached 1.5 feet, and the power it contained was no small matter. Yang Wu did not dodge. The crowbar turned into a blue light and met the attack like a storm. The dense crowbar light was impossible to guard against. Yang Wu had received Sun Rue's guidance, and had already displayed the rainstorm spear technique to perfection. His combat strength was comparable to that of a general realm cultivator, so he was not afraid of fighting Wang Bajin head-on. Zhou Shuilong seized the opportunity to move. He had already drawn his large saber. The moment Yang Wu revealed a slight opening, he raised his saber and slashed at Yang Wu, wanting to split Yang Wu in half. "Young master, watch your back!" Su Jiaohua could not help but cry out. Yang Wu seemed to have eyes at the back of his head. He dodged Zhou Shuilong's attack with a sidestep, and his body even crashed into Zhou Shuilong's chest. With his back against the mountain, Zhou Shuilong was sent flying, vomiting blood. At this time, Wang Bajin had curled into a ball. His back was hunched like a ball. He rolled to Yang Wu's feet and grabbed Yang Wu's feet. He sneered and shouted, "I'll tear you apart alive!" He exerted strength in his arms, wanting to tear Yang Wu in half from between his legs. Chapter 55. Wang Bajin's arms were filled with mystical qi, and blue veins were faintly visible. He was using all his strength to tear Yang Wu in half. Just when Wang Bajin thought he could kill Yang Wu, he found that his legs were like old pine trees that were deeply embedded in the soil. They were steady and powerful, and it was difficult to tear them apart. Dragon Turtle Water Suppression Stance. This stance technique could be called a peerless stance technique. Yang Wu's feet were nailed to the ground, and he was absorbing mystical qi. The strength between his legs was the most domineering. Even Wang Bajin, who could exert 13 cauldrons of strength, found it difficult to move them. Yang Wu bent his knees, and then a force rushed up from the soles of his feet. His body shot up like a bow, and 2 water dragons seemed to be sucked out of the ground. Dragon Turtle Water Absorption. This was the transformation of the Dragon Turtle Water Suppression stance in Yang Wu's mind. The moment Yang Wu shot up, Wang Bajin's body was pulled up by the roots before he could withdraw his hands. Yang Wu crossed his legs, and the water dragons intertwined, forming a chain that strangled Wang Bajin's neck. Yang Wu shouted, "Kill!" Yang Wu's legs were like scissors, and the chain strangled Wang Bajin's neck until it bled. Wang Bajin held on tightly to the chain, but he couldn't stop the chain from breaking his neck. He hadn't felt the taste of death in a long time. Spare my life!" Wang Bajin begged with difficulty. Wang Bajin was afraid of death. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stayed in the mountain prison all this time, and not go to the Death Legion to kill the barbarians to clear his identity as a prison slave. He was waiting to take the step to become a human general before going to the Death Legion. Only then would he have a higher chance of surviving. But now, he was going to die here, and he was really unwilling. In the end, Yang Wu wasn't a homicidal maniac. The moment Wang Ba-jin begged for mercy, he weakened his strength and loosened Wang Ba-jin's chains. When Wang Ba-jin broke free from the chains, a sharp light flashed in his eyes, and his hunchback crashed into Yang Wu. Back-crashing mountain. This was a general technique that Tortoise Ba-jin cultivated that was compatible with his hunchback. The force of this collision was enough to shatter a mountain rock. It was extremely powerful. Yang Wu and Bastard Jean were originally stuck together. He really did not expect Bastard Jean to be so despicable. He had just begged for mercy and turned his back on him in the blink of an eye. It was hard for him to dodge, and his body was sent flying. He flew for 4 to 5 meters before stopping. Despicable! Su Jiahua and Fatty Dong involuntarily cursed. Originally, they had already seen how Yang Wu had defeated Zhou Shuilong and Bastard, and how he had the chance to become the boss of District 2. However, Yang Wu had actually become soft-hearted at the crucial moment, which really disappointed them. Haha, you're really a fledgling. How can you be so merciful in the prison? I'll leave you a complete corpse later. Bastard laughed maniacally and raised his iron staff to chase after Yang Wu. He wanted to completely get rid of Yang Wu. Kill him, ugh! Zhou Shuilong, who had crawled up, cried out. However, this pulled on his wound, causing him to cry in pain. When Bastard Jin's iron staff was about to hit Yang Wu's body, Yang Wu had already flipped over like a carp. He bounced up from the ground, and a palm condensed with a spiral force slammed towards the iron staff. Wave-splitting palm. The palm force was turbulent and contained a spiral force. The palm and staff intertwined, and the celestial chi collided. The iron staff fell from Zhou Shuilong's hand, and blood spurted out from his palm. Bastard Jean was scared out of his wits. He quickly retreated without thinking and opened his mouth to admit defeat. Unfortunately, just as he opened his mouth, an iron crowbar had already pierced his mouth like an arrow, directly penetrating his skull. He did not even have time to scream before he died. Zhou Shuilong and the other prison slaves saw this scene and were all scared out of their wits. This killing method was too fierce. If it were any of them, they would not have been able to block it. Yang Wu looked at Bastard Jean, who had fallen to the ground and died. There was no pity on his face. He had already given Bastard Jean a chance, but he did not cherish it. Yang Wu did not look at Bastard Jean again. He looked at Zhou Shuilong. Zhou Shuilong was a vicious person who chose to devour people. He bent his legs and knelt down, saying, "I admit defeat. I admit defeat." At that moment, he could not care less about the pain in his mouth. It was more important to protect his own life. If his strength was comparable to Yang Wu's, even if it was just a little bit weaker, he would still dare to fight to the death. However, the difference between the two of them was too obvious. They were not on the same level at all. How could he fight? It's good that you admit defeat. Remember to send your 40,000 red steel stones to me, Yang Wu said with a chuckle. Don't worry. I'll get someone to send it all over by today. Zhou Shuilong kowtowed and promised. Not bad. Stay here and don't cause trouble for me. Otherwise, you won't have a good time, Yang Wu said. He looked in the direction of the new District 1. After a moment of hesitation, he decided to return to his own place. Deep down, he wanted to kill his way to District 1. However, after thinking about it, he decided against it. Bastard Jin's collision had injured him quite badly. He needed to recuperate. If he rashly entered District 1 to challenge them again, they might just swarm him and kill him. He had the experience of fighting against hundreds of people by himself. However, the new District 1's prison slaves were all fiercer. He was not arrogant enough to ignore them. It was better to do things step by step. None of the onlooking prison slaves had expected that this 1 versus 2 show would end so quickly. Moreover, it was a one-sided situation. This made them feel disappointed, but at the same time, they were terrified of that young man. At such a young age, he was already able to casually kill a top-notch warrior. If he continued to grow, wouldn't he be able to look down on human generals? Unfortunately, no matter how outstanding he was still just a prison slave. Even if he left the mountain prison and entered the Death Army, he might not have a chance to survive. Just as Yang Wu was about to leave, a prison slave knelt out and said, "Greetings, Boss Yang Wu." Only then did the prison slaves realize that Yang Wu had defeated 2 of their bosses in a row. He had already taken the position of boss. One by one, they knelt down and said in unison, "Greetings, Boss Yang Wu." The prison guards in the distance heard this, but most of them turned a deaf ear to it. This was what their superiors had told them to do. Yang Wu did not want to be a boss. He said to the crowd, "I am not your boss, but from today onwards, you can join the Marquis gang. You will soon know who your new boss is." Yang Wu was born in a delicate family. Even if he was reduced to a prison slave, he did not want to have too much to do with these prison slaves. It was enough for him to make friends with Shou Ho, Little Man, and Sun Rue. Yang Wu returned to his own mountain and went to find Sun Rue. Sun Rue was hugging his gourd and sleeping soundly on the ground. His snores were intermittent. He was sleeping soundly. Yang Wu did not disturb him. He sat cross-legged outside the stone house and began to heal his injuries. Su Jianyang, Fatty Dong, and the others supervised the prison slaves as they transported the red steel ores over. Yang Wu had already collected 100,000 kilograms of red steel ores. He could turn in his contributions at any time and leave the mountain prison. He could then join the barbarian suppression army's Death Legion to atone for his crimes. Many powerful prison slaves hoped that such a day would come. Unfortunately, they did not have a battle prowess as abnormal as Yang Wu's. They could only endure and wait until the day their sentences ended. They would be released without charges. Not long after Yang Wu started meditating, his injuries were almost healed. Sun Rue had not woken up yet, so Little Hay came back first. There was a rag in its mouth. Yang Wu took it and looked at it, only to find that there were 4 words written on it. "Everything is fine, young master. Don't worry." The words were elegant and square. It must have been written by Little Man. Yang Wu smiled and said to himself, "It's fine as long as they're fine. I'll find a chance to talk to Sister Lan Xian and open the door for them. Io, Little Hay, you want to steal my gourd wine again? You're really pissing me off." Sun Rue's exclamation came from inside the house. Obviously, he had been ambushed by Little Hay again. However, Little Hay had never succeeded in stealing the gourd wine. Instead, it had bitten Sun Rue's buttocks several times. "Little Hay, stop messing around," Yang Wu called out from inside. Little Hay was very obedient to Yang Wu's words. It quickly came out from inside and jumped onto Yang Wu's shoulder skillfully. It looked very obedient and gentle. Yang Wu bowed to Sun Rue in the stone house and said, "Elder Sun, can you give me some pointers? I'll be eternally grateful." Sun Rue had taught him martial arts twice, so he was certain that this wretched old man was hiding his true strength. Perhaps, as his younger brother had said, he was an extremely talented master. He should be courteous to the wise and ask this old man to help him and give him pointers on how to proceed on his next path. Sun Rue's eyes moved. He straightened his slightly hunched back and said with the look of an expert, "You have a good eye, kid. You know that I'm a hidden expert. Not bad, not bad." Yang Wu continued to bow and said seriously, "Please give me some pointers, Elder Sun." Sun Rue asked, "What kind of martial arts do you want me to teach you? Show me. If I'm in a good mood, I'll give you a few pointers. I'd like to ask Elder Sun to show me the way forward." Yang Wu replied. "Tsk, tsk. Kid, you're really greedy." Sun Rue clicked his tongue. He paused for a moment and said, "Since you've satisfied 3 of my requests, why don't you tell me about them?" Yang Wu looked up at Sun Rue and said, "I'm Yang Wu, son of Count Yang Yangzhenan. I'm a hereditary viscount. Because I refused to marry into the royal family, I was framed and imprisoned." Yang Wu told Sun Rue everything that had happened to him without holding anything back. Yang Wu had only told Wan Lanxin about these things. Sun Rue was the second. As Sun Rue listened, a wretched smile that hadn't changed for 1,000 years still hung on his aged face. Only his wise and far-sighted eyes frequently emitted bright lights, and he seemed to be pondering or guessing. His thoughts were like the ocean. "That's about it. I'd be eternally grateful if Elder Sun could give me some pointers." After Yang Wu finished speaking, he bowed to Sun Rue again. "Kid, you're not much better than when I was imprisoned." Sun Rue sighed softly and continued, "Now that you've gathered 50,000 kilograms of red steel stones, you can go to the Death Legion to kill the barbarians. It won't be difficult to clear your name, but if you want to take revenge and revive the Yang family, it'll be even more difficult, unless what?" Yang Wu asked. "Unless your martial arts can determine the universe." "How can I determine the universe?" "Shake the barbarians, shake the court, become a noble, and go against the universe." Chapter 56. Shake the barbarians, shake the court, become a noble, and go against the universe. These words were so domineering and shocking, but how many people could actually do it? Yang Wu was not a fool. He could understand the meaning of these words, and at the same time, he understood that Sun Rue was right. He clenched his fists and said, "I can do it one day, but I'm afraid that it will take too long. Please guide me, sir." Yang Wu's change of address from Elder Sun to Sir showed that Sun Rue's position in his heart had changed. "Haha, you think too highly of me. I'm a strategist, not a martial artist. I can plan for temporary gains and losses, and I can plan for my death after 100 years, but I can't help you become a noble." Sun Rue's old eyes flashed with wisdom as he smiled. "Then please help me plan for the next year, sir." Yang Wu replied. He had set a goal for himself. Within a year, not only did he have to completely shake off his status as a prison slave, but he also had to return to the royal city and rebuild the Yang family. It seemed like a very short period of time, but Yang Wu was extremely confident. This was because he had the Imperial 9 Mysteries mantra and the Dragon Turtle Sea Turning technique. Of course, he could not ignore the existence of Little Hay. During this period of time, it had always been by his side. It did not take out any old medicine or spiritual medicine, but he knew very well that Little Hay had its own reasons for doing so. Perhaps as long as it was willing, it could take out old medicine or spiritual medicine for him at any time. Your martial bones are not bad, and you've also gathered enough crimson steel ores. As long as you survive the army of death, you'll be able to live a carefree life. It won't be too late to think of a plan in the future. Why are you in such a hurry to set a year?" Sun Rue asked. "I can wait, but my parents can't. My brother can't." Yang Wu took a deep breath and replied, "What a filial son. Then I'll help you plan for the next year," Sun Rue said with admiration. "You've offended the king, which is your first crime. You've caused your parents to lose their titles, which is your second crime. You've caused your brother to lose his position as the top scholar in the liberal arts, which is your third crime. If you don't solve these 3 crimes, you won't be able to find peace in your heart. However, the third crime is ultimately the first crime. With your current strength, you can't even protect yourself, so it won't be easy for you to get rid of these crimes. Even if you gather 100,000 kilograms of crimson steel ores, you'll still be dead when you arrive at the army of death. The king won't let you live a good life, and even the girl who's protecting you won't be able to stop you. Originally, if you follow the 12 words I just said, You'll make military contributions in 3 years and fight for the position of commander. In 5 years, you'll fight for the position of major general. In 10 years, you'll be able to take the position of barbarian general and return to your hometown in glory. When that time comes, you'll be conferred the title of Marquis. The royal family will definitely not dare to make things difficult for you, and the royal family will definitely give you a satisfactory way out. However, if you want to finish these 10 years of work in 1 year, it's undoubtedly an extremely difficult road to heaven. However, since you want to plan for the next year, you'll have to be prepared for a slim chance of survival. That is, you'll have to be the vanguard of the men of sacrifice and become the king of death. What's the matter? Sun Rue was in high spirits when he talked about planning, as if he was 10 years younger. His temperament was incomparable to the past. What a wise man! Yang Wu couldn't help but praise Sun Rue in his heart when he saw him like this. If Sun Rue heard Yang Wu's words, he wouldn't know how many nights he would laugh from ear to ear. The vanguard of the men of sacrifice, the king of death? Yang Wu murmured softly. That's right. The Death Legion is a troop that uses prison slaves to charge and break through the enemy lines to kill the barbarians. Originally, the purpose of the Death Legion was to send the prison slaves to their death. Those who survived were either crippled or insane. However, more than 10 years ago, a true king of death appeared. He comprehended the Tao of death and became a king in one fell swoop. From then on, he intimidated the barbarians and was even conferred the title of Marquis by the imperial court. He has the right to act first and report later, Sun Rue said calmly. The king of death who is ranked in the top 10. Yang Wu exclaimed in shock. The great Xia dynasty had 10 strongest kings, and the king of death was ranked in the top 3. No one dared to challenge him in the Tao of death. He had already been famous for 20 years. That's right, it's him. Sun Rue nodded lightly and continued. If someone can become a general in a year, they're already considered a genius. If you want to become a king of death, how difficult is that? This king of death stayed in the Death Legion for 10 years before he killed his way out. If you want to kill your way out in a year, it's as difficult as ascending to the heavens. I advise you not to take this path. It's better for you to take it step by step, Sun Rue suggested. Yang Wu's eyes flashed with determination as he said, since there's only one path to take, even if it leads to the gates of hell, I'll still take it. The other paths take too long. I'm afraid they can't afford to wait. Yang Wu could sacrifice his life, but his parents and brother might not be able to afford to wait. There was also that little slug who was already thousands of miles away from him waiting for him to meet. He would definitely be able to reach the peak of the mountain in 3 years. He would be able to reunite with his family and bring home the beauty. There are thousands of paths, but there's only one that suits you. Once you've chosen it, you'll have to walk it. Only when you've stepped on the path of death can you see the light. After Sun Rue said that, he didn't say anything else and walked down the mountain with shaky step. Yang Wu looked at Sun Rue's back and bowed deeply. When he raised his head, Sun Rue's back was already nowhere to be seen. At night, Yang Wu sat alone on the mountain peak. He looked at the dark night sky and listened to the occasional wolf howls that came from the edge of the prison realm. His heart was unusually calm. He thought of the torture that he had suffered since he was imprisoned. He then thought of the Supreme 9 Mysteries formula and the dragon turtle sea turning technique that he had somehow obtained. He also thought of Little Hay, the spiritual dog that was following him. Only then did he regain his confidence step by step and attain the realm of a warrior. He was able to defeat the general realm and defeat the boss of the prison realm. He obtained the 100,000 kilograms of crimson steel rocks that he wanted and could leave this godforsaken place at any time. However, he thought of Shou Ho and Little Man. He had promised to bring them away. He didn't want to go back on his words, but when he thought of the pressing time, he became hesitant. Yang Wu was born in a noble family and had experienced a series of setbacks. His wisdom had long surpassed that of his peers. He was not an indecisive person, but he was a person who valued relationships and righteousness. He was born with that in his bones. He did not want to break his promise. Gather another 200,000 kilograms of crimson steel rocks for them. Yang Wu looked at the moonlight that quietly revealed itself and said faintly. At this moment, his heart was incomparably firm. Although he wanted to grow wings and leave this place, he felt uneasy if he didn't bring the two important people with him. Suddenly, a shadow appeared in the sky under the cover of the night. Yang Wu's heart skipped a beat. He activated the Supreme Nine Mysteries formula to the extreme. He held a dragon in one hand and a turtle in the other and was about to attack the shadow. He thought to himself unwillingly, I didn't expect to die like this. However, before he could attack, Little Hay on his shoulder barked first. Woof, woof! Its voice wasn't loud, and it could only be heard within a few dozen feet. No one would pay attention to it, but the shadow that came from the sky had already landed quickly. It knelt heavily on the ground with all four of its limbs, and it only let out a low cry. A woo! Yang Wu's eyes widened as he watched this scene. His brain couldn't wrap its head around it. He exclaimed in his heart, could it be that this Viscount's aura is enough to make this Wolf King kneel here? Yang Wu was overthinking things. Lang Jie's gaze wasn't on him from the beginning to the end. Instead, it was focused on Little Hay on his shoulder. Woof, woof! Little Hay stared at it with its small eyes and barked continuously. It seemed to be communicating with Lang Jie. Lang Jie nodded repeatedly in response. It was as docile as a harmless big dog. Yang Wu completely understood that this matter had nothing to do with him. He looked at Little Hay and said, Little Hay, is it looking for you? Little Hay nodded humanely. It even wagged its tail anxiously and stroked Yang Wu's ear as if it was proud of itself. Then, does it listen to you? Yang Wu could tell that Lang Jie was very respectful to Little Hay. It was like a subject meeting a king. That was why he asked this question. Little Hay nodded again in response. Yang Wu was overjoyed. He hurriedly said, then let it stay as a mount. Since he was very young, Yang Wu had always admired those experts who could tame spirit demons as mounts. Riding on their mighty mounts and galloping on the road, how dashing would that be? Who knew how many beauties would fall head over heels for them? However, spirit demons had already developed intelligence. If one wanted to subdue them, it would be difficult to subdue them without powerful martial strength and the necessary opportunities. Most spirit demon mounts had been raised by humans since they were young. Such spirit demons were not weak, but they had lost some of their wildness. In front of him was a Wolf King. Yang Wu actually wanted to use it as a mount. If others knew about this, they would scold him. Wishful thinking. However, if they saw the next scene, their jaws would probably drop in shock. Lang Jie is willing to be your mount, Lang Jie said in human language. Yang Wu opened his mouth wide and was completely dumbfounded. He had only said it casually, but the Wolf King had taken it seriously. This made him feel at a loss. Little Hay barked repeatedly with a look of disdain. The Wolf King was so frightened that it continued to kneel, not daring to make a sound. Yang Wu came back to his senses. He was sure that the Wolf King was very afraid of Little Hay. He suspected, could Little Hay be the eldest son of the Wolf clan? However, no matter how he looked at it, Little Hay did not look like a wolf. It did not have any wolfish instincts. Its appearance was also very different. At this moment, the Wolf King spat out something. Yang Wu's eyes widened. He could not help but cry out, could this be a companion wolf blood crystal? The companion wolf blood crystal was an energy crystal formed when the Wolf King broke through. The power it contained was not to be underestimated. It could be said to be a king item. Just as Yang Wu finished speaking, Little Hay had already leaped over his shoulder and swallowed the fist-sized companion wolf blood crystal. Yang Wu instantly felt his heart ache. Chapter 57. The life-bound wolf blood crystal was a crystal the size of a fist. There were wisps of blood on its surface, and it was sparkling and translucent. It was formed from the blood of the Wolf King, and could be considered a king item. If an ordinary wolf demon devoured a life-bound wolf blood crystal like this, not only would their bloodline improve, but their strength would also increase greatly. They would even have a chance of breaking through to the king level in the future. It could be said that a life-bound wolf blood crystal like this was extremely rare. It was extremely beneficial for tempering the body of a human. Yang Wu had not only focused on cultivation since he was young. He often read books with his younger brother. However, his younger brother read books of the saints while he read all kinds of strange books. Thus, he could recognize the life-bound wolf blood crystal at a glance. However, such a precious thing was swallowed by Blackie in one gulp. How could he not feel pained? If he could obtain a small amount of the life-bound wolf blood crystal, he would be able to refine his body. It would be extremely beneficial to him. Fortunately, Little Hay was not the type to eat alone. It quickly returned and spat out a thumb-sized life-bound wolf blood crystal. Yang Wu quickly put it away and said, "Little Hay, oh Little Hay, you can ignore this king item, but you can't be so wasteful. Apart from leaving a little for me, you can't leave a little for Show Ho and Little Man." Little Hay stuck out its tongue. There were still 2 life-bound wolf blood crystals curled up in its tongue, but it quickly put it away. Yang Wu laughed heartily. He then gently stroked Little Hay and said, "I've wronged you." He paused for a moment and glanced at Lang Jie, who was lying on the ground and did not dare to get up. He then said to Little Hay, "What should we do with it?" Yang Wu wanted Cruel Wolf to be his mount, but he didn't dare to do so now. If that happened, it would definitely cause trouble. He still wanted to get rid of his identity as a prison slave openly. Little Hay rolled her eyes and barked at Lang Jie a few times. Lang Jie kept nodding his head like a chicken pecking at rice. After a while, he stood up and said something that Yang Wu could understand. "Here is a wolf's tooth. Please accept it. It can protect you from being attacked by my clan's wolves. You can come to my territory to look for me at any time." After saying that, it spat out a sizable wolf tooth in front of Yang Wu. Then, it looked at Little Hay reluctantly before flying away under the cover of the night. Yang Wu picked up the sharp wolf fang and said with joy, "In that case, in the future, the wolf clan can be considered to have a death exemption card." Yang Wu was pleasantly surprised by this opportunity that had been delivered to his doorstep. At that moment, what he wanted to do the most was to use this piece of companion wolf blood crystal. He couldn't swallow it directly like Blackie, or he would be killed by the demonic chi. He could only soak it in water and use it to temper his body. It was difficult to even take a bath in the prison, so where was he going to find water to temper his body? "Looks like I'll have to trouble Sister Lan Xian," Yang Wu thought to himself. Then, he found a rag and wrote a few words on it using black charcoal. He handed it to Little Hay and said, "Little Hay, help me give this to my sister tomorrow." Little Hay bit the rag in her mouth and nodded in agreement. That night, Yang Wu couldn't cultivate in peace. Instead, he practiced his battle skills for the entire night and waited for the next morning's sun to rise. On this day, Yang Wu didn't sit cross-legged to absorb the purple chi. Instead, he stood with his hands behind his back. The purple chi automatically entered his body. At that moment, 7 more acupoints were opened in his body. He was only 2 acupoints away from the 108 acupoint. Yang Wu didn't sleep the entire night, but his spirit didn't shrink at all. Instead, his eyes were like the purple sun, full of energy and vigor. At that moment, a prison guard quickly came up the mountain with a bucket of water. The prison guard was very young, about the same age as Yang Wu. He couldn't be considered handsome, but he had a resolute look to him. He was the kind of youth who was more attractive the more you looked at him. The young prison guard placed the bucket in front of Yang Wu and looked at Yang Wu with an unfriendly expression. I don't know what relationship you have with Mayor Wan, but I hope you know your place and don't drag Mayor Wan into this." After that, the young prison guard didn't wait for Yang Wu's reply and quickly turned around and went down the mountain. Yang Wu looked at the young man's back and smiled. "Looks like another young man who's been attracted by Sister Lan Xian's charm." At that moment, little Hay scurried in from outside, holding something in her mouth as she appeared in front of Yang Wu. After Yang Wu saw it, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Little Hay, you're finally willing to give me some old medicine to nourish my body." What little Hay held in her mouth was a stalk of cold return grass. This was an old medicine that warmed and nourished the body. Although it wasn't as precious as the blood ginseng, it was gentle and easy to absorb. It could reduce heat, but its attribute was cold. Little Hay gestured with her front paws, as if Yang Wu was going to throw this stalk of cold return grass into the bucket of water. Yang Wu understood tacitly. "You want to use this stalk of cold return grass together with the companion wolf blood crystal?" Little Hay nodded repeatedly, indicating that Yang Wu was right. "Okay." Yang Wu knew that Little Hay wouldn't harm him, so he agreed. Then, he moved the bucket into the stone house and threw the thumb-sized companion wolf blood crystal and the cold return grass into the bucket. He took off his clothes and walked into the bucket. Then, he stood up with the dragon turtle water suppressing stance and absorbed the water xian qi that had seeped into the ground bit by bit. This ability to absorb water was something that even a martial artist in the general realm might not be able to do. Yang Wu was so focused that he stood there for half a day. The water in the bucket turned from a little bit of water to a small puddle until it covered his knees. Finally, the entire bucket was filled with water. Soaked in the water, Yang Wu felt comfortable all over. Both his mental and physical fatigue were swept away. The peach seed dantian in his body was absorbing the water xian qi. His meridians and acupoints were humming at the same time. It was possible for him to break through the 108 acupoints at any time and enter the senior warrior realm. Yang Wu held the companion wolf blood crystal and crushed it. The moment the companion wolf blood crystal broke, a demon aura appeared in the air and a wolf shadow pounced on him with bared fangs and brandished claws. Others would be frightened by such a horrifying momentum. However, Yang Wu was already prepared. He had already worn the wolf's tooth on his chest. This was the wolf's tooth before the Wolf King evolved. Although it was not a king's item, it was definitely a top general's tooth. It could resist the demon aura of the wolf. In addition, it could also ward off evil spirits and calm the mind. The wolf shadow disappeared before it got close to Yang Wu. The power of the companion wolf blood crystal began to disperse in the bucket. The water immediately turned red and boiled in an instant. Yang Wu only felt that he was in a steamer. The boiling water made him scream. His body couldn't help but twitch. He really wanted to jump out of the bucket. This would kill him. "I've even survived the blood qi, so this pain is nothing." Yang Wu gritted his teeth and thought to himself as he endured the pain in his heart. The companion wolf blood crystal was only the size of a thumb, but the power it contained was enough to temper a person's body. Yang Wu was only in the warrior realm, so it was naturally enough. The companion wolf blood crystal was on the hot side, while the cold return grass was on the cold side. At this time, the cold return grass showed its effect. It produced a little bit of cold air and reduced the heat in the bucket. Otherwise, the heat of the water would become even more terrifying. Even a warrior might not be able to withstand it, let alone Yang Wu. Yang Wu abandoned all distracting thoughts and used all his strength to activate the Supreme Nine Mysteries formula and the Dragon Turtle Water Suppression stance to absorb some of the power that seeped into his body. After the Supreme Nine Mysteries formula and the Dragon Turtle Water Suppression stance combined, the power outside the bucket was constantly absorbed into his pores. Finally, it entered the peach core dantian. The Thousand Holes mysterious essence qi was like clouds steaming. It was truly magical. When this power strengthened the peach core dantian, it seeped into his flesh and organs, strengthening them bit by bit, making them incomparably tough. While Yang Wu endured the steaming pain, he felt that his mental strength was also increasing. If he couldn't endure it and fainted here, even if he was scalded to death, his body would be completely cooked, and his power would be wasted. Another half a day passed, and night fell. The bloody color in the bucket faded with the waves, and the water stopped boiling. Yang Wu was still maintaining his stance, and there was no longer any trace of pain on his face. Behind him, there was a faint dragon-turtle aura, but it was very faint, so faint that it was difficult to grasp. Suddenly, the water in the bucket moved again, but the water wasn't boiling. Instead, it was like a whirlpool that spun non-stop inside the bucket. After it spun to a certain extent, the water overflowed out of the bucket. Yang Wu opened his eyes, and the bucket broke. Bang! The water scattered all over the ground, revealing a healthy, well-proportioned, and perfect body. Strange sounds rang out, as if thousands of arrows were shot, and also as if there were whirlpools spinning rapidly. Specks of light appeared all over his body, like stars in the sky. Finally, they converged into a long rainbow, which was very spectacular. Piercing through the rainbow, this was the unique sign of a high-level warrior. Yang Wu broke through 14 acupoints in his body, breaking through the limit of 108 acupoints, reaching 120 acupoints. Every acupoint was filled with profound qi that was spinning rapidly. The profound qi in the 12 standard meridians, and that meridian was like a surging river. In addition, there was a meridian that was faintly moving. Unfortunately, the power didn't break through this meridian. Yang Wu opened his eyes, and 2 streaks of lightning pierced through the night. He could clearly see everything within 100 zhang outside the room. Strange sounds were also transmitted into his ears, which were the sound of those prison slaves sleeping soundly in the underground. Stepping into the high-level warrior realm is another scene. Now I can go to the prison field leaders in front of me and see if they are willing to contribute the red steel ores they have obtained. Yang Wu murmured. After Yang Wu put on the prison clothes, he immediately used the whirlpool palm several times. The profound qi that came out of his palms was incomparably vigorous, and the spiraling force was enough to penetrate the profound armor of a general. In addition, the cicada clothes that appeared on his body seemed to be a lot thicker, and already had some similarities with the profound armor of a human general. Its defensive power naturally increased by several levels. Yang Wu patted the blue cicada clothes and his body that was more than 1 level tougher, and said to himself with a smile, "This can be considered as an invulnerable body, right?" Then, Yang Wu stood up again with the dragon turtle water suppressing stance, and began to visualize the dragon turtle sea turning art. Every time he visualized the dragon turtle sea turning art, he would gain great benefit. This was really a peerless secret technique. The next day, before Yang Wu could issue a challenge to the first district, someone came to look for trouble. Chapter 58. The new first district was a combination of the previous 4 districts. Everyone thought that the 4 bosses there would definitely clash with each other. However, none of this happened. The 4 bosses only met each other once, and there was no conflict. Everyone got along well in the first district. However, the 4 gangs became an alliance. At the same time, there were 4 leaders, who were the original 4 bosses. It seemed that they were going to coexist peacefully. The 4 leaders were the original number 1, AI Fei Li, Zombie Han Wuqing, Clown Teacher Ling Mei, and Barbarian Shi Taixing. AI Fei Li was a thief before he was imprisoned. He was famous for his speed, and had the strength of a general. However, he was severely injured by the imperial court before he was imprisoned, and he was forced back to the top warrior realm. Even so, he could still look down on all warriors in the warrior realm. This was also the reason why he became the number 1 boss of the prison slaves. Han Wuqing was truly cold and emotionless. He was only 30 or 40 years old, but he already had a dead face. It was as if his heart had died. He was known as a zombie, and he killed people without blinking. The clown teacher, Ling Mei, was a woman with a disfigured face. However, her figure was undeniable. It was not ambiguous at all. One could imagine that if she was not disfigured, she would be so charming that he would not be able to pay for it with his life. As for barbarian Shi Taixing, he was a captive. He was extremely strong, and he could easily defeat a general realm warrior. These four people could be said to be much stronger than Wang Bajin, Zhou Shuilong, and He Gu. After they formed an alliance, they wanted to divide the crimson steel ores among the prison slaves. They were no longer satisfied with the current situation of 1 to 7. Because of this, they sent people to the new second district to ask the new boss of the second district to pay tribute to them. This time, the first district did not send many people. There were only 8 of them. However, these 8 people were all advanced warriors, and one of them was even a top warrior. No one dared to stop such a force from entering the second district. The leading top warrior, Guojingshi, shouted at the prison slaves of the second district in a domineering manner, "Call your new boss here. Tell him to pay tribute to the first district from now on." Guojingshi's attitude was very arrogant, as if he was the master of the second district. Zhou Shuilong had not recovered from his serious injuries, so he did not stop them. He even asked someone to inform Guojingshi about who was the real boss here. Guojingshi and his group quickly went to look for Yang Wu's whereabouts. Soon, they found Su Jiaohua first. When Guojingshi saw Su Jiaohua, who was half a woman, his heart was moved. He teased her, "I've heard that Black Gorilla got himself a pretty good mistress. Now, it seems that you're not bad at all. Your body can even withstand some torment. Later, you'll come with me to the first district and have some fun." Guojingshi was the strongest prison slave other than the 4 alliance masters. He believed that he was not any weaker than Wang Bajin, Zhou Shuilong, He Gu and the others. The only reason he did not become the leader was because he was following AI Fei Li. "You want to subdue this old lady with your short stature? Take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror first." Su Jiaohua wasn't a kind person and directly spoke with her hands on her hip. At the same time, a large number of prison slaves surrounded them. As long as Guojingshi and his group dared to cause trouble, they would swarm them. "Hee, you're quite something. It doesn't matter if you don't like me now, but once you've had a taste of my crotch, I guarantee that you won't be able to stop." Guojingshi ignored the prison slaves surrounding them and sneered. "T. Everyone attack. Kill them." Su Jiaohua waved her hand and ordered. "Who dares? We're the 4 alliance masters of the first district. If you dare to attack us, we'll definitely take all of your crimson steel ores," Guojingshi shouted. Sure enough, under Guojingshi's yelling, the prison slaves who were present retreated a little. The people in the first district were all ruthless, even more ruthless than them, and their strength was a bit stronger. Moreover, the few bosses were all infamous, so they were more or less afraid. "What are you afraid of? They can't cause trouble on a large scale. Attack!" Su Jiaohua ordered again. In the end, the battle still broke out. Nearly 100 people against 8. This was not as magnificent as Yang Wu entering the 7th district alone, but it wasn't too far off. Guojingshi and his group came prepared. Each of them had the strength of a high-level warrior. Their combat strength was extraordinary. When they blocked the attacks of the prison slaves, they quickly restrained Su Jiaohua. The good show of capturing the leader first to capture the bandits made the other prison slaves not dare to act rashly. "Call your new leader out immediately, or I'll kill this woman first," Guojingshi said with a ferocious expression. A moment ago, he was still thinking about having fun with Su Jiaohua. Now, he wanted to destroy her. His ferocity was extraordinary. Therefore, Fatty Dong climbed up the mountain to find Yang Wu to settle this matter. When Fatty Dong was halfway up the mountain, Yang Wu had already come down. Before Fatty Dong could say anything, Yang Wu said, "I know. Let's go down and talk." Yes, young master. Fatty Dong looked at the young man in front of him, and felt inexplicably relieved. It was as if there was nothing in the mountain prison that this young man couldn't handle. Yang Wu gently stroked little He on his shoulder and muttered with a smile, I originally wanted to go to the first district. This time, I have a good reason to act. Soon, Yang Wu followed Fatty Dong to the scene of the incident. Guo Jingshi was kneading Su Jiahua's buttocks with a smug and lewd smile. So bouncy. I'll just pretend that I'm being molested by a pig. Su Jiahua cursed. That's right. Later, I'll capture you and make you mine. Let's see if you're still as stubborn as before. Guo Jingshi laughed. The surrounding prison slaves were incomparably envious. They also wanted to enjoy a fragrant woman like Guo Jingshi. One had to know that there were some women in the mountain prison. Most of them were incomparably ugly, and some were even old and crippled. It was rare to see a woman with such charm like Su Jiahua. Women who were slightly younger would have been sent to serve as military prostitutes long ago. They wouldn't have been sent to this place. Yang Wu arrived in front of them. The prison slaves on his left and right opened up a path for him, and they all respectfully called out in unison, Young Master. Everyone else liked to address him as boss, but Yang Wu didn't like it. Thus, all the prison slaves present called him Young Master. Guo Jingshi looked at Yang Wu with a pair of triangular eyes that were filled with contempt. A brat who hasn't even grown out his hair dares to call himself a king here? You really don't know what you're talking about. Yang Wu calmly looked at Guo Jingshi and said, Let her go, and I'll let you crawl back in one piece. Hee, what if I don't let her go? Guo Jingshi sneered. If I don't let her go, then I'll leave 1 or 2 items on me before I go back. Or, I'll just leave my head here. Yang Wu replied. What arrogance! Come, let me see what ability you have to put my head here. As a top-tier warrior, Guo Jingshi was very confident. He handed Su Jiahua to someone behind him and walked towards Yang Wu. Guo Jingshi stopped half a meter away from Yang Wu, tore open his prison clothes, and revealed a series of crisscrossing scars. He patted his chest and said, When I was fighting, you were still drinking milk somewhere. If you have the guts, come and touch me. Let's see if I don't break your balls. You're very confident. What if it's your balls that are broken? Yang Wu looked at Guo Jingshi and said, Nonsense, I'm the #1 expert under Boss AI. If I want to be one of the bosses, I can get it easily. So, you'd better be sensible and give the red steel stones to our first district as tribute. That way, you can live a safer life. It won't be too late for you to show up when the bosses of our alliance go to the Death Legion. Now, just obediently squat down. Don't give me that youthful face. Otherwise, you'll die sooner. Guo Jingshi scolded Yang Wu as if he was lecturing a junior. At the same time, he reached out to grab Yang Wu's face. He didn't put Yang Wu in his eyes at all. Before his hand reached Yang Wu's face, it was grabbed by Yang Wu's hand. Guo Jingshi frowned and wanted to pull his hand back, but he couldn't. His face changed slightly. His other hand formed a fist and smashed towards Yang Wu's face. This fist was surrounded by Xian Qi and was very domineering. He must teach Yang Wu a lesson. Unfortunately, before his fist could reach Yang Wu had already kicked out quickly and landed directly on his crotch. Out. Guo Jingshi was kicked up. His legs tightly clamped onto his vital parts. Tears flowed out of his eyes as he screamed, Ah, broken. This sound was so ear-piercing that it pierced the ears of the prison slaves who came with Guo Jingshi. They were so scared that they clamped their legs tightly together. Guo Jingshi was a top-notch warrior. His reaction speed was astonishing, but in front of this young man, his balls were actually broken. Was it because Guo Jingshi had underestimated his opponent, or was this young man too strong? Before Guo Jingshi's companions could arrive, Yang Wu had already grabbed Guo Jingshi's hair and pulled his head towards his knee. He slammed his head hard against the ground. In an instant, Guo Jingshi's nose bled violently and he screamed again. Yang Wu revealed a cold expression and said, pretending to be garlic in front of this Viscount, you should take a look at your own weight. After saying that, he mercilessly threw Guojingshi towards his companions. His companions were already shocked. Unexpectedly, no one went to catch Guojingshi. Instead, they scattered to avoid him. Guojingshi fell heavily to the ground and fainted from the pain. Yang Wu's gaze fell on the prison slave who was still holding on to Su Jiahua. He scolded, "Let her go!" His voice was imposing and thunderous. The prison slave was so scared that his hands trembled, and he pushed Su Jiahua away. "Each of you can leave if you break one of your arms," Yang Wu said coldly to the prison slaves of the first district. "Do you really think you've got us? Let's go together and take him down." One of the prison slaves shouted in defiance. He raised the crowbar in his hand and swung it at Yang Wu. This crowbar flickered with profound qi like a spirit snake. In the blink of an eye, it reached Yang Wu's throat. Just when the prison slave thought that he was going to stab Yang Wu only used 2 fingers to clamp the crowbar in his hand. It was called the telepathic finger. "Break 2 of your arms." After Yang Wu pronounced the prison slave's fate, he pulled the crowbar with 2 fingers, causing the prison slave to lean forward. His other hand reached out and grabbed the prison slave's shoulder. Before the prison slave could react, a powerful force crushed his shoulder. "Gotcha!" The prison slave's screams and the sound of his broken bones mixed together. It was chilling. Chapter 59. Both of the prison slave's shoulders were crushed by Yang Wu on the spot. The sound of bones breaking and the prison slave's blood-curdling screams caused the others to break out in cold sweat. Yang Wu threw the prison slave to the ground like a dead dog, then said coldly to the other prison slaves who were retreating, "What are you waiting for if you don't cripple one of your arms?" These people hesitated for a moment, then one of them picked up the crowbar in his hand and hit his own arm. After this person crippled his own arm, the others did not dare to disobey and broke their own arms one after another. This way, they would suffer less pain than being crushed by the youth. "Scram!" Yang Wu shouted at these people. The few of them almost rolled and crawled away from this place. The prison slaves in the second district looked at Yang Wu with eyes full of reverence. In the future, no one would dare to disobey this young master in the slightest. Yang Wu looked at the injured Su Jiahua and said, "Well done. From now on, no one will find trouble with you." "Thank you, young master, for saving us," Su Jiahua said gratefully. Yang Wu replied, "Just serve Elder Sun more attentively in the future." After saying that, he headed in the direction of the first district. Fatty Dong was very quick-witted. He immediately followed and asked, "Young master, are you going to the first district?" Yang Wu nodded. Fatty Dong expressed his loyalty and said, "I'm willing to go with you, young master. I'm going to challenge all of them. Do you have the guts?" Yang Wu looked at Fatty Dong playfully. Fatty Dong shrunk his neck and smiled awkwardly. Then I'd better not be a burden to you." Yang Wu was not angry. Instead, he laughed and said, "Haha, Fatty Dong, you're not bad. You're honest." Yang Wu looked up and left. He looked so heroic and carefree. He did not have the slightest awareness that he was a sheep in a pack of wolves. That was the first district. The most powerful prison slaves were all thrown there. Even though none of them surpassed the human general realm, many of them had reached the warrior realm. When they gathered together, they could even trample a human general to death. Some time ago, a wolf general broke into that place and was killed by the prison slave. It was enough to show how fierce these prison slaves were. Last night, Yang Wu had broken through to a high-level warrior, and his body had been tempered by the blood crystal of the companion wolf. Now, he could ignore everyone below the general realm. His ultimate purpose for this trip was not only to become the young master of all the prison slaves, but also to temper himself. He increasingly felt the warlike blood in his body. Only in battle could he accelerate his growth. Moreover, he had to become the war king of death within a year, which was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. He had no choice but to fight to survive. Yang Wu walked step by step toward the first district. He stepped over mountain rocks, weeds, and wild flowers. His heart was as calm as water, without the slightest nervousness before a great battle. On the contrary, the 1,000 holes in his peach core dantian were surging non-stop, and the mysterious essence qi was circulating wave after wave, reaching a perfect state. He carried an iron rod on his back. This was the relic of the black gorilla. It weighed 1,000 pounds and was many times better than an ordinary iron crowbar. It could be considered an ordinary weapon. Yang Wu arrived at the border between the first and second district. There were prison guards patrolling the area. When one of them saw Yang Wu, he wanted to stop him, but another prison guard shook his head and stopped him. Yang Wu naturally noticed these details, so he stepped over the border and headed toward the first district. There was a border between the regions, so the information between the regions was naturally not very accurate. As for Yang Wu, who had suddenly appeared, not many people paid attention to him. They all thought that he might be a new prison slave. He looked so delicate, but he was actually sent to the first region. He must have offended someone with a powerful background. One of the prison slaves came up to Yang Wu and said with a fierce look, "New kid, hurry up and tell me your name." Yang Wu smiled brightly and replied, "My name is Yang Wu." "Yang Wu? So it's an animal surname. Interesting. Haha, quickly learn how to bark like a sheep. If you can do it well, I'll let you have an easy time today. If you can't, you can crawl under my crotch and be a dog," the prison slave said arrogantly. "Duckhead, take it easy. This child looks so delicate. It's not good to scare him and make him cry. Let me comfort him," another prison slave said to Yang Wu while throwing flirtatious glances at him. "You old kidnapper, who doesn't know that you like young masters? Wait for me to teach him a lesson, then I'll let you have your fun," the prison slave in front said. He then looked at Yang Wu and said, "Quickly learn how to bark like a sheep. My patience is limited. Otherwise, I'll throw you over to that old kidnapper and let him break your ass." In this boring place, other than teaching new people, they didn't seem to have any other fun. "Little Hey, someone is scolding you. Can you bear it?" Yang Wu said with a smile as he patted Little Hey on his shoulder. "Woof, woof." Little Hey barked twice in response. It bared its teeth and jumped off Yang Wu's shoulder. It went straight for the person who had just scolded Yang Wu. The prison slave felt his vision blur, and then he felt pain on his face. He screamed as blood dripped down his face. Little Hay's claws had scratched his face, but that wasn't all. It had even bitten his neck, causing him to bleed. The prison slave wanted to grab Blackie, but even though Blackie's teeth were small, they were extremely sharp. Blackie bit off his neck, causing blood to spurt out like a fountain. He couldn't stop the blood from gushing out, and just like that, he fell to the ground, dead. This was the first time Yang Wu had seen Little Hay so fierce. It had bitten someone to death. He thought to himself, "It looks like Little Hay has changed after eating the wolf blood crystal. Good Lord, he actually let his dog bite someone to death. Everyone, let's go and teach this kid a lesson." The prison slave who had been talking to the dead man called out to the others. The prison slave was the first to raise the crowbar in his hand and hit Little Hay. He felt that Little Hay might be even scarier than a human. Unfortunately, his crowbar didn't hit Little Hay. Little Hay had already pounced on his neck. The prison slave couldn't stop Little Hay's ferocious bite. The blood vessels in his neck ruptured and he bled to death. The other prison slaves were shocked, but they didn't stop. They all raised the crowbars in their hands and attacked Little Hay. Some of them even went straight for Yang Wu. They knew that if they killed this kid, Little Hay wouldn't be so fierce. "Newcomer, how dare you cause trouble in the first district? Kneel down," a prison slave shouted. The crowbar was aimed at Yang Wu's head. The crowbar's strength was extraordinary. It had the strength of at least 15 stones. It was the strength of a top-tier martial weapon. Before the crowbar's strength could reach Yang Wu easily caught it. Yang Wu pulled gently, and the prison slave was sent flying. I'm here to look for the leaders of your alliance. Please tell them not to come here and die, Yang Wu said calmly as he looked at the prison slaves surrounding him. The prison slaves all had some strength, but in his eyes, they weren't even worth mentioning. Some of the prison slaves didn't believe him. A few of them joined forces and attacked Yang Wu. The crowbars whistled through the air as they attacked Yang Wu's vitals. Stubborn. After Yang Wu said that, he finally made his move. His body was ethereal, and his palms were like the wind. Before the prison slaves' attacks could land on him, they were already sent flying. Yang Wu pulled out the iron rod from his back and said again, "Those who stand in my way will die." At this moment, his body was like a dragon turtle treading on the waves. His speed changed from slow to fast, and even the chains could not restrain him. The prison slaves who were surrounding him only saw a blur in front of their eyes before they lost sight of the young man. When they looked again, the young man was already more than 10 feet away. A prison slave exclaimed, "I know who he is. He's the new leader of the 2nd District, Yang Wu. He killed Guo Jingshi and crippled the other leaders. How dare he barge into the 2nd District alone? Let's kill him together. He seems to be very strong. We should report this to the 4 leaders." Some prison slaves quickly blocked Yang Wu's path. However, as soon as they got close, they were sent flying by the iron rod. No one could stop the might of the iron rod. Yang Wu didn't show any mercy. Every strike of the rod landed on the prison slaves' flesh, and they cried out in pain. Blood splattered on the ground, and it was a ghastly sight. Little hay continued to weave through the crowd. Wherever it went, someone would be bitten by it. Some people's buttocks were bleeding, some people's arms were bleeding, and some people's necks were bitten off. No one was spared, and no one was able to hurt it. Yang Wu continued to head east. In less than half an hour, there were dozens of people rolling on the ground behind him. The prison slaves were so scared that they didn't dare to continue forward. They needed someone stronger to stop them. "How dare you act so violently here? We brothers will tear you apart." A barbarian prison slave rushed out and shouted. This time, 4 barbarians appeared. Each of them was tall and mighty. Their brute strength was astonishing. Each of them carried 1,000 kilograms of rocks and threw them at Yang Wu. These barbarians were warriors. The strength of these rocks was no small matter. Even a high-level warrior would be smashed to death. For huge rocks fell from the sky like meteorites. They rolled towards Yang Wu's position. Yang Wu didn't dodge or evade. Instead, he raised the iron rod and struck it towards the sky. Qian-Chi rushed out of the iron rod like a torrential rain. The 4 huge rocks were smashed to pieces. Stone fragments flew in all directions, and the prison slaves were forced to flee in panic. When the rocks were broken, the 4 barbarians had already arrived at Yang Wu's left and right. They threw their fists at the same time. It was as if they had a tacit understanding. The Qian-Chi in the 4 fists was 10 feet long. The brute strength contained in these fists was even more overbearing. Even a top-level warrior would die if they were hit. "I'll use your fists to test my newly tempered physique." Yang Wu faced the 4 fists without moving. He didn't even release Chani and allowed the 4 fists to land on his body. Bang! The 4 fists landed on his body at the same time. The overbearing Qian-Chi rippled through his body, wanting to destroy his meridians and organs. The 4 barbarians felt that Yang Wu was definitely going to die. One of them opened his mouth and said, "That's all there is to it." Who knew that the youth would immediately reply, "That's all there is to it." The 4 barbarians were shocked. They wanted to retreat, but it was too late. The iron rod had already swept past them. Pu. Chapter 60. The iron cudgel contained Qian-Chi and was extremely powerful. Even the barbarians, who were born with thick skin and flesh, were unable to withstand it. Their skin was split open and their flesh was splattered. Yang Wu's blood was boiling. He laughed and said, "Bring more people who can fight. You guys are too weak." As Yang Wu's laughter fell, the iron cudgel and his xian qi was like a storm, wreaking havoc on the 4 injured barbarians. They were unable to retreat in time and were unable to block it. When Yang Wu put away the iron cudgel, the 4 barbarians were already covered in blood and collapsed in a pool of blood. Yang Wu did not look at them. The iron cudgel was placed on the ground. As he ran forward, the iron cudgel created a burst of intense sparks. Once the fearless prison slaves approached, they would be sent flying with a single blow. No one could stop them. Soon, a bloody path appeared in the first district. It was filled with the blood of the prison slaves. It was extremely shocking. The prison guards who were secretly watching felt their scalps go numb. The strength of the youth who was dragging the iron cudgel was not inferior to any of the bosses. If such a youth wanted to escape, the district head would have to appear to stop him. However far Yang Wu walked, little He followed. No one could stop their footstep. Yang Wu's appearance finally alarmed one of the 4 bosses of the alliance, Shi Taixing. He was also the king of the nearby mountains. Shi Taixing appeared in front of Yang Wu empty-handed. He was like an iron tower standing at the highest point. He was like a Vajra. His eyes were bright and his aura was astonishing. In the past, Shi Taixing had torn apart 49 soldiers and 1 general of the Great Xia dynasty on the battlefield before he was captured. Now that he was a captive, his barbarian aura did not diminish. As the boss of the prison slaves, although he would never be able to get rid of this identity, he would only be satisfied if he killed a few more people of the Great Xia dynasty. For example, the youth in front of him was the target he wanted to kill the most. Even if such a young genius had the potential to soar in the mountain prison, he, Shi Taixing, would kill this genius to reduce the danger to his comrades. This was also the reason why Shi Taixing had to drag out an ignoble existence. Shi Taixing had the spirit of one man guarding the pass. He coldly looked at the petite Yang Wu. There was not the slightest bit of contempt in his eyes. There was only a thick, murderous aura. The other prison slaves no longer encircled Yang Wu, they all made space for Shi Taixing. They believed that as long as Shi Taixing made a move, this young man in front of them would die without a doubt. Yang Wu raised his head and looked at Shi Taixing, who was blocking his way. He pointed his blood-stained iron rod at Shi Taixing and said, "Barbarians, those who obstruct me shall die." Ever since he was young, Yang Wu knew that the citizens of the Grand Xia Empire and the barbarian tribe were at loggerheads with each other. However, he didn't know what exactly was going on. Perhaps it was a territorial dispute, or perhaps it was a conflict between different races. In short, it was an innate hostility that was instilled in him. "Boss, quickly kill him. He injured so many of our brothers." A prison slave cried out. "That's right, don't let him go. He's too arrogant. Does he really think that there's no one in the first district?" Another prison slave said. Yang Wu now knew that this barbarian in front of him should be one of the bosses of the first district, Shi Taixing. He had long heard from Su Jiaohua about the situation in the first district. One of the 4 bosses was from the barbarian tribe. The thing I love the most is to twist off the heads of talented youths like you." Shi Taixing grinned at Yang Wu. "Everyone says that barbarians are all brawn and no brains. Seems like it's true. You're even disdainful of being my servant." Yang Wu mocked back. Shi Taixing's eyes darkened. He took heavy steps towards Yang Wu. Every step he took left a deep footprint on the ground. It was obvious how tyrannical his strength was. "You dare to humiliate the barbarian tribe. Kneel down and I'll leave you with a whole corpse," Shi Taixing shouted as he walked over. He used his powerful aura to suppress Yang Wu. His entire body was surrounded by a light yellow energy. The energy was like snakes swimming in the air. It was awe-inspiring. Yang Wu flicked his unbound black hair and said with a smile, "I'll return the same words to you." After he finished speaking, Yang Wu faced Shi Taixing head-on. He was not afraid of him at all. He only hoped that Shi Taixing's strength would not disappoint him. Shi Taixing raised his eyebrows. A yellow fist blasted towards Yang Wu. The fist was 1.5 feet long. It was like a roaring snake that wanted to devour people. The power of this fist was incomparably tyrannical. It was enough to split rocks and split mountains. It was not something that an ordinary top warrior would dare to take head-on. Yang Wu could clearly see the trajectory of Shi Taixing's attack. He could have dodged it first and then looked for an opportunity to attack. However, he did not do so. Instead, he gathered the power in his palm and slapped towards the fist. Bang! The fist and palm collided. Different forces splashed out. The two of them were in a deadlock. Neither of them took a step back. Their hair and clothes fluttered in the air. The dust and gravel around them were sent flying. Shi Taixing raised his eyebrows. It was as if two divine lights flickered in his eyes. His other fist blasted out again. The snake's coiled mouth was wide open. It wanted to swallow someone. Yang Wu's other palm was like a rippling wave. The spiraling force was like a small vortex that condensed in the palm of his hand. It met the snake's attack. The fist and palm collided once again. It was still a tie. Neither of them could do anything to the other. "I don't believe that you can be stronger than me," Shi Taixing shouted angrily. He pulled back his fist and punched again. His strength was on another level. Yang Wu also pulled back his fist and punched again. His strength was also on the rise. Bang! Bang! Yang Wu and Shi Taixing fought head-on. Neither of them was willing to back down. Between their palms and fists, two different colored xian qi constantly burst out. Sand and stones flew around them. It was a wonderful sight. The surrounding prison slaves were dumbfounded. It was hard for them to imagine that such a young man could be on par with the barbarian Shi Taixing. Even the top 3 bosses of the first district couldn't have such an ability. "Damn it, I will definitely beat you up with one punch." The more Shi Taixing fought, the more anxious he became. With a roar, he circulated all of his xian qi. The brute force in his body crazily condensed on both of his fists. He smashed them at Yang Wu. Barbaric Python Fist. This was Shi Taixing's battle fist. It could release at least 15 cauldrons of strength. It was enough to smash a huge rock into powder. Yang Wu had already realized that Shi Taixing was going all out. He took a step back and circulated the Sovereign 9 Mysteries formula and the Dragon Turtle Water Suppression art to the extreme. The energy in his body crazily extracted. The two vortexes condensed in the center of his palms became more rapid. It seemed that the sound of a vortex was contained within them. He first shouted, "Just now I only used 80% of my strength. Now I will use 90% of my strength to defeat you." As soon as he finished speaking, he pushed his palms forward fiercely. This was definitely more than 20 cauldrons of strength. The spiraling waves blasted the barbaric python until it exploded inch by inch. Blood splashed from Shi Taixing's arms. Traces of blood seeped out. His body continuously retreated. With every step he took back, a deep pit appeared on the ground. Yang Wu, in a spurt of energy, rushed forward like a dragon turtle coiling on water. His palms continued to fiercely strike. Shi Taixing's hands were trembling, but he had no choice but to raise his fists to meet the attack. Shi Taixing was once again pushed back. However, he still did not fall. More blood seeped out from his arms. The pain caused his expression to become even more unbearable. Yang Wu, on the other hand, continued to strike with his palms. His palms were like a tide. One wave came and went, and another wave came. It was endless. At this moment, he increasingly understood the subtleties of the vortex wave palm. The large success stage was becoming more and more mature. He was afraid that it wouldn't be long before he could cultivate this palm technique to the perfect stage. Under the 7th impact, Shi Taixing's arms were bent. His bones were broken. His body fell heavily to the ground, creating a human-shaped pit and raising a cloud of dust. Taishing's skin was thick and his flesh was thick. He wouldn't die so easily. He wanted to get up, but a foot had already stepped on his chest, causing it to cave in. Pooh! Taishing spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body became pale, and it was difficult for him to have any combat strength to speak of. Yang Wu stepped on top of Taishing. He looked down at Taishing and declared, "The red steel ores you collected are all mine." Haha! I can't leave the mountain prison at all. How could I have collected red steel ores? You think too much. Taishing laughed wildly in the face of death. Yang Wu's killing intent was great. He shouted, "If you don't have red steel ores, then what's the use of having you?" Taishing wanted to punch away Yang Wu's foot. Unfortunately, Yang Wu used his strength at this moment and stepped on his chest, causing him to die on the spot. He actually killed Boss Shur. Let's avenge him together. That's right. We were captured and brought here. We are destined to die. If we can kill this brat together, we will have profited. He has used up a lot of his strength. Let's take this opportunity to kill him. The captured barbarians here screamed. They each carried a crowbar or a rock and charged towards Yang Wu. They had already accepted their death. Dying a day earlier or a day later didn't make much of a difference to them. However, they were satisfied to be able to kill a few more people from the Great Xia dynasty. Yang Wu stretched out his hand and grabbed the iron rod that was thrown on the ground. Little Hay once again appeared on his shoulder. He laughed and said, "Little Hay, let's fight to our heart's content today." Yang Wu waved the iron rod. It was like a long dragon, sweeping away thousands of soldiers. Many crowbars were smashed out of their hands. The rocks were smashed into smithereens. The barbarians' blood splattered everywhere. Yang Wu really didn't have the mood to kill these barbarians. He killed his way towards the other mountains. No one was his match. Many of these prison slaves were scared. This young man's strength was simply unfathomable. If it were other warriors, they would have been killed by him. On top of a mountain not far away, there were dozens of prison slaves guarding together. 3 of them were standing at the highest point. They had already seen the scene of Yang Wu killing his way over. Their eyes couldn't help but reveal a somewhat dignified expression. These 3 prison slaves were the leaders of the alliance. They were AI Fei Li, Zombie Han Wuqing, and Clown Master Ling Mei. In their opinion, this young man's battle strength was not inferior to theirs. In fact, he might even be stronger. This was a fact that they couldn't accept. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The middle-aged AI Fei Li sighed. Chapter 61. A long, bloody path was laid out like a red carpet-like rainbow. A young man with a little hay dog on his shoulder dragged his metal rod as he walked forward step by step. None of the prison slaves dared to provoke him anymore. Too much blood had been spilled, too many people had been injured, and too many had died. No one dared to look down on this young man anymore. The young man raised his head and looked at the dozens of prison slaves on top of a mountain. His gaze fell on the 3 bosses in the center. He pointed his metal rod at them, his fighting spirit soaring. Everything went without saying. Flying Hairy AI Fei Li was a middle-aged man. His face could be described as young and handsome. Unfortunately, his hair had turned white early and his legs were no longer nimble. One of his legs had already rotted away. Even so, this warrior who had once entered the human general realm could still laugh proudly in the mountain prison. Zombie Han Wuqing had a deadpan face. He looked as if everyone owed him 300 taels of silver. He was so gloomy that it was frightening. His body emitted waves of death aura that made people want to vomit. As for Ling Mei, she had a devilishly enchanting figure. Her voluptuous figure could make one's blood boil. If it weren't for her ruined and ugly face, she would have long been taken in by the prison guards. These 3 bosses were among the top 3 of the prison slaves. Naturally, their battle strength was not to be underestimated. When the prison slaves who were guarding the three of them saw the young man pointing at the iron staff, their eyes were filled with hostility. The several dozen of them were not like those good-for-nothings from before. They were all mid-level warriors and high-level warriors. If they joined forces, they could kill top-level warriors and battle generals. 3 bosses, let us go down and kill this arrogant brat. A prison slave volunteered. That's right. Even if he can kill everyone, he won't be able to kill us. The one who will die will be him. Another prison slave said. The dozens of prison slaves were ready to move. They clearly wanted to fight to the death with Yang Wu. Ai Fei waved his hand and said, even if you go up, you will only be able to squeeze out his remaining strength. However, you will all die. This is not a good solution. What's the use of talking nonsense? I want to kill this brat. Zombie Han Wu Qing said in an extremely unpleasant voice. Hee, I don't care. Shirling Mei said with a smile that was even uglier than crying. At this time, Yang Wu was already close to the mountain, walking over step by step. 3 bosses, Yang Wu only wants to ask for some red steel ores. I don't have any ill intentions. Please don't be too stingy. Yang Wuqing said to Ai Fei, Han Wuqing, and Shirling Mei. Along the way, Yang Wu had already killed many prison slaves. How could he say that he had no ill intentions? What a joke. And I'm, as a friend. Bye. This time, he came here for nothing else but the red steel ores. He wanted to gather 50,000 kilograms for Shou Ho and Xiao Man so that he could leave with them. Ai Fei frowned. That's too much. I know it's too much. So we'll follow the rules of the prison. Whoever's fist is harder will have the final say. Yang Wu said in high spirit. I'm guessing you only have 30% of your strength left. Aren't you afraid of being killed by us? Ai Fei said. Even if I only have 30% of my strength left, it's enough to show you that my fist is the strongest. Yang Wu clenched his fist and said confidently. Zombie Han Wuqing couldn't take it anymore. He shouted, I don't want to listen to your nonsense. Defeat me and my red steel ores will be yours. Han Wuqing rushed down from the mountain. He scratched the ground with the crowbar in his hand, causing sparks to fly. Aren't we going to fight? Shirling Mei looked at Ai Fei and asked. You can fight. I'm crippled. I don't want to fight. Ai Fei said calmly. Then I want to see if he can block the combined attack of me and the zombie. If he can block it, then I'll give him my portion of red steel rock. Shirling Mei said and floated down. The other prison slaves didn't dare to fight. They knew that if the 2 bosses attacked together, they wouldn't be able to do anything. If they couldn't even defeat the 2 bosses, they would die if they went up. Yang Wu looked at the oncoming Han Wuqing. The Supreme 9 Mysteries formula and the Dragon Turtle Water suppressing stance in his body were operating to the extreme. His feet and pores were endlessly absorbing the Xian Qi from the outside world, replenishing what he had just lost. He recovered 40% of his strength from 30%. By the time Han Wuqing arrived, he had recovered 50%. By the time Han Wuqing attacked him, he had recovered 55%. Die. Han Wuqing was really merciless. The crowbar in his hand was infused with cold Xian Qi and aimed at Yang Wu's heart. Yang Wu's strength increased greatly. He could see the trajectory of the attack clearly. He dodged to the side, but his clothes were torn. It was obvious how fast Han Wuqing was. Han Wuqing's dead face had a sinister smile. He attacked even faster. If Shi Taixing was strong, then Han Wuqing's moves were tricky and hard to defend against. They both had their strength. In terms of danger, Han Wuqing was more terrifying. Han Wuqing's crowbar was more like a sword. He kept stabbing wildly, and in one breath, he could stab 18 times at the same time. Each stab was aimed at a different location. If Yang Wuqing hadn't crossed the advanced warrior level and was still in the intermediate warrior level, he would have been stabbed directly under the crowbar. Yang Wu dodged again and again. When he couldn't retreat anymore, Lingmei, who was charging down, attacked without warning. She held an even shorter crowbar in her hand. It was only half the length of an arm. But the moment she attacked, a sharp cold light pierced towards Yang Wu's back. Her sneak attack was effective. This ugly girl was an existence that could be ranked third. Her attacks were very ruthless. She didn't show any mercy just because Yang Wu was handsome. Yang Wu was already in a situation where he was attacked from the front and back. It looked like it would be difficult to salvage the situation. Ai Fei Li and the other prison slaves stared at this moment. They wanted to see how Yang Wu would deal with this situation. Yang Wu didn't expect that Lingmei would attack at this time. He thought that she disdained to join hands with Han Wuqing. It looked like he was too naive. "Come at me!" Yang Wu shouted in surprise. He activated his mysterious energy that had recovered to 70%. A cicada robe quickly covered his body. At the same time, he avoided Han Wuqing's frontal attack and took the full brunt of Lingmei's crowbar from the back. That force caused cracks to appear on his cicada robe. The remaining force penetrated deep into his back. Lingmei was overjoyed. She felt that Yang Wu would be severely injured. But in the next moment it was hard for her to smile. Yang Wu used the momentum of her attack and rushed towards Han Wuqing. His speed was much faster than usual. It was as if Yang Wu had jumped into Han Wuqing's embrace. At this moment Yang Wu made his move. Rainbow after rain. The iron rod in Yang Wu's hand turned into a long spear. The spear light was like a rainbow after the rain. It was colorful and dazzling. Han Wuqing's eyes narrowed when he saw the light. He immediately entered a defensive state and retreated, not letting himself fall into a dangerous situation. His reaction was already very fast. Unfortunately, Yang Wu's move was even faster. In the blink of an eye, the iron rod was already above his head. He tilted his head at the first moment, but his ear was hit and his shoulder was bleeding. The pain made him suck in a breath of cold air and retreat. Yang Wu's move wasn't able to completely kill Han Wuqing. There was some regret in his eyes. Behind him, Lingmei had already recovered and attacked again. Lingmei's short crowbar proved the saying, "An inch longer strength, an inch shorter danger." Every move and style was sharp and dangerous, forcing Yang Wu to be surrounded by danger. After Han Wuqing was injured by Yang Wu, he didn't stop. His face was suffused with a thick dark green evil aura. He held the crowbar and attacked again. It was obvious that he was even angrier. Yang Wu didn't hold back anymore. He didn't make a move before because he was accumulating strength. Now that he had recovered 70% of his strength, it was time for him to make a move. The iron rod in his hand attacked left and right. Using the rod as a spear, he displayed the rainstorm spear technique. This warrior's spear technique had already reached the perfect stage. It wasn't even inferior to the general skill proficiency stage. Lingmei and Han Wuqing were both blocked by him and couldn't cause him any harm. The more Yang Wu fought, the braver he became. The speed of the Regal Nine Mysteries formula became faster and faster, endlessly absorbing energy from the outside world. The acupoints on his body kept flickering, and 2 more acupoints were already showing signs of opening. Can your attacks be a bit more ferocious? This still isn't enough. Yang Wu's entire body was protected by the cicada robe. Moreover, his body had been tempered by the companion wolf blood crystal. It could be said that his body was invulnerable. He didn't fear their attacks at all. It was equivalent to being in an invincible position. This was also one of the reasons why he was able to withstand the attacks of the prison slaves on his way here. "I will definitely make you suffer a fate worse than death." Han Wuqing shouted loudly and thrust the crowbar in his hand. Yang Wu was so frightened that he thought Han Wuqing could use his qi to block the crowbar. He swung his rod sideways and sent the crowbar flying. At the same time, He leaned back to avoid Shirlingmei's throat slash. His figure continuously retreated a few steps, increasing the distance between them. Roar. Han Wuqing let out a strange roar. His face became more and more green. His incisors suddenly became long and sharp. His arms became thick, and his fingernails became long. The prison clothes were shattered, and a terrifying corpse aura spread out from his body. Shirlingmei wrinkled her nose and retreated far away. She didn't dare to team up with Han Wuqing anymore. It was as if she was also disgusted by the current Han Wuqing. This is also a human-beast transformation? No, it should be a human corpse transformation. Yang Wu exclaimed. Han Wuqing had turned into a scarlet body like the black gorilla. However, upon closer inspection, he looked more like a zombie. It wasn't without reason that Han Wuqing was called a zombie. He cultivated the zombie art, an evil art that devoured death aura and corpse aura. Once he mastered it, he could turn into a battle corpse, and his combat strength would be much stronger. I'm going to eat you! Han Wuqing glared at Yang Wu and shouted faintly. In the next moment, he stepped forward and jumped toward Yang Wu. Chapter 62. Han Wuqing did not walk or run towards Yang Wu. Instead, he jumped like a zombie. However, the speed and height of his jumps exceeded the limits of a normal zombie. His arms were like divine weapons as he furiously chopped down at Yang Wu. 2 streaks of green light fell like rainbows, suppressing Yang Wu. Yang Wu raised his gaze, his face filled with battle intent. His iron staff smashed down like rainbows. The iron staff was like a torrential storm, shooting out like arrows. His Xian Qi was pushed to more than 6 meters long, which was already comparable to that of a beginner human general. Yang Wu's torrential spear art had entered the perfect stage. Once he displayed it, there was no way he could escape. He felt that it was enough to beat Han Wuqing to death. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Han Wuqing ignored the attacks and used his arms to take them all in. Other than a few scars on his arms, there wasn't much damage. It could be seen how strong his body was after the transformation. Yang Wu really did not expect Han Wuqing to be unharmed after charging into his chaotic staff. He could not help but exclaim, "That works too!" He could not retreat in time. Han Wuqing grabbed him by the neck and bit at his shoulder. "Disgusting thing, get out of my way!" Yang Wu naturally would not let Han Wuqing bite him. Water Xian Qi was madly sucked into his body from where he stood. Under the pressure of the continuous battle, he instantly opened 2 orifices. The Xian Qi in the peach pit surged even more violently, causing him to explode with great power. His knee fiercely slammed into Han Wuqing's lower abdomen. Bang! This slam was enough to at least break Han Wuqing's lower abdomen. However, all of this was not as beautiful as imagined. Han Wuqing's body was sent flying from the impact. His lower abdomen was not destroyed, and his hands were still strangling Yang Wu's neck. However, his mouth was not as fast as before. Yang Wu furrowed his brows for a moment. Both of his knees struck out consecutively, determined to send Han Wuqing flying. Han Wuqing, on the other hand, refused to let go of Yang Wu, causing Yang Wu to feel suffocated. Han Wuqing's fingernails pierced through his cicada clothes and into his neck, wanting to choke him to death. Little He came out of nowhere and bit onto Han Wuqing's arm. Han Wuqing did not care about this little He dog at all. After corpse transformation, his arms were as tough as steel. How could a little He dog hurt them? Unfortunately, he was wrong. The little black dog's fangs were extremely sharp, and when it bit down, it was like a sharp blade that could cut through hair. It directly bit off one of his arms, causing strands of green blood to spurt out from it. Before Han Wuqing could react to the pain, little He had already jumped onto his other arm and bit down again. He wanted to shake it off, but it was too late. Another arm was bitten off. The moment Yang Wu was freed, He poured all his strength into his iron staff and swept it across Han Wucheng's lower abdomen. His prenatal mystical essence qi surged like a tidal wave, beating Han Wucheng's lower abdomen until his intestines were exposed. Han Wucheng was just a mediocre corpse transformation. He might be able to withstand the attacks of an ordinary junior general, but Yang Wu had already used all his strength. Even a mid-level general would not be able to withstand his attack. Naturally, Han Wucheng would not be able to withstand it. After Yang Wu's attack succeeded, he did not hold back. He shouted, "You disgusting bastard, what's the use of keeping you alive? Kill!" Yang Wu felt that Han Wucheng was really the kind of person who killed without batting an eyelid. He was even an evil person who ate people. Although he did not have a heart of justice, he was mentally disgusted by this kind of disgusting bastard. Therefore, he did not hold back and wanted to completely destroy Han Wucheng. Lingmei wanted to attack, but when she saw that little He was glaring at her with its fangs bared, she stopped moving. Bang bang! Yang Wu's iron staff was filled with tyrannical mystical qi wave after wave. It swept across Han Wucheng's body, which had already lost both his arms, directly destroying his body. The surrounding prison slaves looked on eagerly as their atoms apple-bobbed up and down. They couldn't stop swallowing their saliva. Yang Wu's deterrence was too strong. If they were to attack together, they would probably die. As the number one boss, Ai Fei Li's eyes were filled with calmness. Once upon a time, he also had such battle prowess. Unfortunately, his cultivation level had dropped, making it difficult for him to return to his peak. What a nostalgic time! Ai Fei Li sighed softly in his heart. He had been labeled as a perverted thief, but he had only plucked flowers that were willing to be plucked by him. He had not forcefully taken them. He believed that if there were flowers to pluck, they should be plucked. He had not done anything wrong. However, the last time he had plucked a flower, he had plucked it from the body of an official's new wife. Therefore, the matter had blown up and attracted the attention of the 13 arbiters before he was captured. Even now, he did not regret his actions. He only felt pity for the delicate woman who had died because of him. He remembered that when he was captured, that woman had boldly said that she did not regret having a one-night stand with him. Because of this, that woman had been slashed to the ground by that fat, big-eared dog official. Zombie Han Wucheng was dead. Yang Wu's iron staff fell to the ground. His face was covered in sweat. His mouth opened and closed as he gasped for breath. It was obvious that he had overexerted himself. No matter how powerful and mysterious Yang Wu's mystical arts were, it was difficult for him to maintain his peak state in this kind of battle. However, as long as he was given a bit of time, he would recover very quickly. Yang Wu turned around to look at Lingmei and said, "Why aren't you making a move? Are you going to admit defeat?" Lingmei smiled and said, "Hee, that's right. I admit defeat. However, if you want the Scarlet Steel Stone, you should ask Boss Ai first. If you can even win against him, I'll give you my Scarlet Steel Stone." After saying this, she nimbly returned to Ai Fei Li's side as if Ai Fei Li was her superior. Ai Fei Li shook his head and sighed, "Ugly girl, you don't seem to be very proper. Boss Ai, you are the Alliance's #1 boss. You should take responsibility for this matter. This brat is too troublesome. I don't want to follow in the zombie's footsteps." Lingmei said, "My leg is already crippled." Ai Fei Li replied, "But you still have one leg that isn't crippled." Lingmei replied, "It's a good thing that you're a disfigured woman. If you weren't, I wouldn't be willing to let you go." Ai Fei Li replied indifferently. Then, he dragged his crippled leg and walked towards Yang Wu. Yang Wu didn't say anything. He used all of his strength to circulate the Supreme 9 mystery tactics and the Dragon Turtle Water suppression stance. He was extremely cautious as he looked at the #1 boss. He didn't dare to doubt the strength of this old man with a crippled leg. Just the fact that he could move 10 feet in one step was enough for him to take him seriously. I'll give you half an hour to recover. After half an hour, take one of my attacks. If you can take it, I'll give you the Scarlet Steel Stone. If you can't, then you can go die. AI Fei Li came to a stop 5 meters away from Yang Wu. Half an hour is enough for me to recover to my peak condition. Do you really dare to take the gamble? Yang Wu asked back. Don't talk nonsense. I was once in the general realm. Even if my realm has dropped, it's more than enough to take care of you who hasn't even reached the peak of the warrior realm. Don't think that you're amazing just because you can fight above your realm. AI Fei Li finally revealed a trace of the dignity of the number 1 boss. Yang Wu looked up to the sky and laughed. You're arrogant enough. But you're no longer in the general realm. With what's left of my strength, I can defeat you in one move. After saying this, Yang Wu stepped forward. He circulated the profound arts in his body to the extreme and compressed his strength repeatedly. He wanted to end this with one move. AI Fei Li giving him half an hour was beneficial for him, but he also didn't care. He wanted to walk the path of the War King of Death, because he wanted to temper himself on the path of death. If it wasn't his opponent dying, then it would be his death. Only by facing death and surviving would he be able to quickly break through to a higher realm. This was one of his requirements for himself. AI Fei Li frowned and said, Kid, you're overestimating yourself. At this time, he began to accumulate strength. A layer of gray profound armor covered his body. This could only be considered a half-profound armor, not a complete one. It was only slightly better than Yang Wu's current chani, but this also showed that AI Fei Li's strength was extraordinary. Yang Wu quickly arrived in front of AI Fei Li. His footsteps slowed, but his aura continued to rise. The faint image of a dragon turtle seemed to appear behind him. Light blue water profound energy surrounded him and finally gathered between his arms. At this moment, almost all of the energy in his peach core dantian had been sucked dry. He was going to deal the final blow. As Yang Wu drew closer and closer, AI Fei Li's expression finally became more serious. He could see Yang Wu's realm through the aura examination technique, but when Yang Wu used all of his strength, he also saw that Yang Wu seemed to have transformed into a dragon turtle. That shocking aura was not inferior to anyone in the general realm. This was a prodigy who could fight against those in a higher realm. This kind of prodigy is most likely feared by others, so he was sent to prison. What a pity! AI Fei Li sighed softly in his heart. He formed a seal with his hands, and the gray Xian Qi started to revolve around him. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew beside him, and he stood on one leg like a golden rooster. He slowly raised his lame leg, and the shadow of a foot suddenly appeared. 1 zhang, 2 zhang, 3 zhang. 3 meters of profound energy, 30 cauldrons of strength. The battle strength of a general realm cultivator was no exaggeration. This was AI Fei Li's true strength. One move to decide the victor. The blood in Yang Wu's body boiled, and his battle intent reached its peak. He forgot all of the fatigue from before, and only saw the power of the foot in front of him. His hands formed the dragon turtle's aura, and he madly pressed forward. At this moment, Yang Wu was like a dragon turtle standing on a river, roaring angrily at the sky, wanting to go against the heavens. This feeling was similar to the first time he saw the dragon turtle sea-turning technique. Yang Wu fought to live from the brink of death, and was able to touch the surface of the dragon turtle sea-turning technique. The dragon turtle came out of the sea, and it was like a river with endless waves. He kicked out with his lame leg, as if he was no longer lame. His profound energy was astonishingly sharp, and it collided with the dragon turtle. There was no fanciness, only a real collision. Rumble! Blue and gray profound energy clashed, and the sound of an explosion swept out. Waves of air rolled, and many sand and stones were crushed into pieces. A deep pit burst open where they were. A figure fell to the ground, and a smear of blood spilled into the sky. Chapter 63. A young man stood in the middle of a deep pit that was about 10 meters deep. His feet were embedded in the ground, and his body was towering and unmoving. One of his hands was clenched into a fist, while the other was spread open, maintaining an elegant posture. The other person who was sent flying smashed into the ground 7 or 8 meters away. Dust flew everywhere and blood stained the ground. The person who was sent flying was Faili. The number 1 boss of the prison slaves had been defeated. The surrounding prison slaves stared with their eyes wide open, unable to believe what had just happened. In the past, they had seen this crippled middle-aged man send a person flying with a kick. How tyrannical and valiant it was. Today, this middle-aged man was defeated in a single move. It was really hard for them to accept. Yang Wu had won, but he did not have the slightest bit of joy. His strength was already depleted, and his body was overdrawn. The circulation of the Xian formula had slowed down, and he was in a state of weakness. He could collapse at any time. At this time, Lingmei, who was already at the side, suddenly made her move. She bent her body slightly, holding the short crowbar in a reverse grip. With extremely light steps, she rushed over. The crowbar in her hand was already emitting an icy cold energy. When she was about 6 meters away from Yang Wu, she ruthlessly stabbed out. A trace of ice flower-like sharp force pierced towards Yang Wu's heart. It was really ruthless to the extreme. Yang Wu stared at the crowbar that suddenly pierced towards him. His body was no longer listening to his commands, and it was very difficult for him to dodge. When he resigned himself to his fate, Little Hay had already rushed into the air, using its small body to block the attack. Woof woof! Little Hay was only the size of an arm, as if it had never grown up. With such a small body blocking the attack, its body was sent flying far away, and it let out a miserable cry. Yang Wu watched this scene helplessly. His heart felt as if it had been ruthlessly stabbed, and the pain was unbearable. This was already the second time Little Hay had risked its life to save him. The first time was when they were fighting against the black gorilla, and now it was the second time. The first time, it was safe and sound, but this time, would it be able to withstand it? Damned little hay dog! Lingmei cursed. With a light tap of her feet, she once again attacked Yang Wu. You're the damned one! Yang Wu's suppressed anger in his heart exploded at this moment. After he was imprisoned, it was all because of Little Hay's luck that he could have today. It had helped him many times, and he had already seen it as a partner. In front of his eyes, it once again, and his partner, once again, it was to block this fatal blow. He only of his heart, and the pain, he of his partner, of course, of his heart, his lungs. Yang Wu's eyes were bloodshot, and his blood vessels were boiling. His originally dried-up dantian squeezed out the last bit of energy. Relying on a breath of anger, it exploded out from his 1,000 orifices. In an instant, another extraordinary meridian suddenly exploded, and 10 more acupoints were simultaneously broken. A new energy flowed through his entire body, and his fists and palms simultaneously bombarded towards Lingmei. The dragon turtle roared furiously, and the rivers churned. The dragon turtle sea-turning technique instantly entered the minute subtlety stage, and its power increased explosively in an instant. A burst of Xian Qi with a strength of 15 meters exploded like a dragon turtle's attack, instantly landing on Lingmei's body. Lingmei didn't even have the chance to escape before she was hit. Bang! The terrifying attack, the bloody attack, directly blew Lingmei's body apart, turning her into a pile of broken limbs that scattered in all directions. The blood that dripped from her body was a ghastly sight. Faili, who was barely able to sit up, looked at Lingmei's tragic death and sighed softly. Even I am not this brat's match, and he still dared to throw his life away. His death is truly not worth regretting. After Yang Wu killed Lingmei, he rushed in the direction of Little Hay. He said nervously, "Little Hay, Nothing must happen to you. When he arrived in front of Little Hay, he saw Little Hay lying motionlessly on the ground. AI Fei Li's eyes were about to pop out. Little Hay! Yang Wu cried out in a choked voice. Just as tears were about to flow out of his eyes, Little Hay suddenly opened its eyes and bounced up from the ground. It was as lively as a dragon and as lively as a tiger. There was nothing wrong with it at all. It even licked Yang Wu's outstretched hand. The wet feeling made him come back to his senses. Little Hay, are you okay? Woof, woof. Little Hay wagged its tail and barked proudly. The hostility on Yang Wu's face disappeared. Then, he slapped Little Hay and scolded, "Brat, you're not dead yet, you're still pretending to be dead. You really scared me to death." Little Hay did not get angry after being slapped away. Instead, it ran back and licked Yang Wu's hand. It was obvious that it was very close to him. Yang Wu picked up Little Hay and was no longer angry. He said, "You can't be so willful in the future. Although your small body can take a beating pretty well, if you die, you will become my savior. No, my savior dog. That will make me lose face." Woof, woof. Little Hay barked back. It was unclear whether it was agreeing or not. Yang Wu stroked it gently, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. Sometimes, humans were not as good as dogs. How many people were as loyal as this Little Hay dog? Yang Wu put Little Hay on his shoulder. He felt that the flow of qi in his body was more than 2 to 3 times faster than usual. The absorption of the xian qi of heaven and earth was also much faster. His already dried-up dantian was rapidly gathering energy. Wisps of energy floated in his 1,000 holes. All of this was caused by another unblocked extraordinary meridian. The human body not only had the 12 main meridians, but also 8 extraordinary meridians, also known as the 8 extraordinary meridians. Ordinary martial artists had only unblocked the 12 main meridians. Only after cultivating to the human general realm could one possibly unlock the 8 extraordinary meridians. Now, Yang Wu was only in the advanced warrior realm, but he had already unblocked 2 extraordinary meridians. The 2 most important extraordinary meridians were the Run and Du meridians. When the Run and Du meridians were unblocked, one could be called a martial grandmaster. Many martial artists in the general realm might not be able to unlock these 2 meridians. As the saying goes, when the Run and Du meridians are unblocked, 8 meridians are unblocked, and 100 meridians are unblocked. From this, one could see the importance of the Run and Du meridians. Once these 2 meridians were unblocked, one could see the position of king. Those who did not unblock these 2 meridians would forever be stuck at the martial grandmaster realm. Yang Wu mistakenly thought that Little Hay had been killed. In a fit of rage, he unblocked the Du meridians with a surge of blood qi. It could be said that he had profited greatly. Even if he was standing, he was absorbing energy much faster than usual. This was the benefit of unblocking the Ren and Du meridians. Yang Wu looked sideways at AI Fei Li and asked, "Can you give me the red steel rock now?" AI Fei Li's lame leg was bleeding. He did not force himself to stand up. Instead, he sat on the ground to stop the bleeding. When he heard Yang Wu's question, he nodded and said, "The winner takes all. The red steel rock is yours." "Good, then many thanks." Yang Wu did not plan to continue arguing with AI Fei Li. He was already very satisfied to be able to obtain their red steel rock. This was also the purpose of his trip. As for the prison slaves who did not know what to do, he did not want to stay and be their boss. "Wait, I have something to discuss with you," AI Fei Li called out to Yang Wu. Yang Wu did not turn his head and asked, "What is it?" "I want to ask you for a favor," AI Fei Li said. Yang Wu waved his hand and said, "This Viscount does not have the time to do such a thing." AI Fei Li then said, "I will not ask you for nothing. I will trade a general skill with you." Yang Wu quickly returned to AI Fei Li's side and said with a smile, "If there is anything you want, just say it. As long as it is within my power, I will not hesitate. It had to be said that Yang Wu's speed of change was unparalleled. AI Fei Li did not care about this. He knew that this young man in front of him was not an idiot. If there was no benefit in exchange, who would agree to do something for him? Go and send the red steel rock in the alliance to the second district. AI Fei Li ordered the prison slaves who did not leave. The prison slaves knew that AI Fei Li had something to say to Yang Wu, so they all nodded and left. AI Fei Li then turned to Yang Wu and said, I know that after you gather all the crimson steel ores, you will go to the Death Legion to clear your identity as a prison slave. I believe that with your strength, you have a 20 to 30% chance of coming back alive from the battlefield. So, I have a favor to ask of you, please agree to it. You have good eyes. This Viscount will definitely be able to get rid of my identity as a prison slave alive. However, let's talk about your request first. If it is equal, I can consider it, Yang Wu said as he sat down beside AI Fei Li. I want you to take care of a mother and daughter for me, AI Fei Li said with a hint of shyness. Yang Wu was speechless. This *T story sounded a little familiar. When he was younger, one of the guards of the Yang family told him about a pair of sworn brothers. One of them went to the battlefield, while the other said generously, You can go to the battlefield without worry. I will take care of your wife and daughter. In the end, the one who went to the battlefield died, and his wife and daughter became his brother's wife and daughter. AI Fei Li saw the strange look in Yang Wu's eyes and immediately scolded, Kid, I'm telling you, don't think of anything bad. I just want you to take care of them secretly. They are just ordinary people. Just let them live a normal life. Oh, then let's talk about the reward, Yang Wu said disapprovingly. He was a Viscount, and he was not the kind of person who would take advantage of others. He cared more about the reward. You haven't agreed yet, AI Fei Li said. If I'm not satisfied with the reward, why the hell would I agree? Yang Wu replied unhappily. Alright, you know that I have the nickname Scimitar, because I have a general skill called Scimitar. Cultivating it can increase one's attack power and speed. It can be considered a dual-use combat skill. If you agree to my request, I will teach it to you. What do you think? AI Fei Li said in a deep voice. Scimitar doesn't sound domineering at all, but it's barely passable. I agree to your request. Yang Wu reluctantly agreed. A general skill was rare, even among the Yang family's martial skills. He did not remember many of the battle skills back then, but now that one was delivered to his doorstep, it would be a waste not to take it. Then you have to swear an oath first. Otherwise, if I teach it to you and you don't do it, wouldn't it be a loss for me? This Viscount is handsome, mighty, and unparalleled in benevolence and righteousness. Do I look like someone who would go back on his word? Yes. Damn, you won't have any friends like this. Chapter 64. There weren't many incantations for this battle skill, but it was quite exquisite. At the minute subtlety stage, one could kick out 3 variations. At the proficient stage, one could kick out 6 variations. At the great success stage, one could kick out 12 variations. At the perfect stage, one could kick out 2 to 4 variations. It was a leg skill that went from shallow to deep. Other than that, it could also increase the user's speed by at least 50%. This was a very good battle skill for any martial artist. AI Fei Li was able to roam the martial arts world unhindered after he obtained this skill. He was able to come back from death's door again and again. AI Fei Li was already crippled, and it was very difficult for him to perform this skill perfectly. He could only use it to trade with Yang Wu in exchange for the safety of the mother and daughter. It was already very difficult for him to return alive to see the mother and daughter, but he still hoped that they could live on peacefully. He hoped that he didn't entrust them to the wrong person. Yang Wu left the first district with satisfaction. He had already remembered AI Fei Li's request. If he didn't die on the battlefield, he would definitely visit the mother and daughter. When Yang Wu returned to the border between the first and second districts, A tall man with a combat weapon stood in front of him, making him feel as if he was facing a great enemy. This man was wearing armor, and his face was very masculine. He was the mayor of the first district, Zhang Xiong. Yang Wu looked at Zhang Xiong cautiously. He didn't recognize Zhang Xiong. Back in the blood pit, he was fighting against Shueisha, and Zhang Xiong had just arrived. They had a simple conversation, but at that time, Yang Wu didn't have the time to see what Zhang Xiong looked like, so he didn't know who Zhang Xiong was. Zhang Xiong, on the other hand, recognized Yang Wu. He looked at the cautious Yang Wu and said softly, "You broke into the new first district alone and injured 200 to 300 people. Dozens of people died on the spot, and 3 bosses were killed by you. Even a mayor can't compare to you." "You are?" Yang Wu asked curiously. He didn't feel any hostility from Zhang Xiong, so he relaxed a little. If the other party was here to pick a fight, he wouldn't know how to deal with it. He had already gathered enough red steel ores and could leave at any time. He really didn't want to cause any more trouble. "I'm Zhang Xiong, the mayor of the first district. We've met before." Zhang Xiong introduced himself. "So it's Mayor Zhang. Nice to meet you." Yang Wu faced Zhang Xiong and cupped his hands in greeting. After a pause, he said, "You are the Uncle Zhang that Sister Lan Xian spoke of?" "That's right. You've caused quite a ruckus today. If it weren't for me, you would have been nailed to the gates of the mountain prison," Zhang Xiong replied. Yang Wu felt a chill all over his body in an instant. After his martial arts strength had improved greatly, he felt that he could do whatever he wanted in the mountain prison. However, he forgot that he was still a criminal. Moreover, he had offended a noble. There were people here who were watching him all the time. As long as they gave the order, they could kill him on the spot. Even if he could kill someone in the general realm, so what? You don't have to be nervous. Miss has already told me to protect you no matter what. What's more, you saved the warden's life. I can't just watch you die. It's just that you can't stay here any longer," Zhang Xiong said very seriously. Yang Wu nodded heavily and said, "I've already gathered enough red steel ores and handed them in. Mayor Zhang, please arrange for me to go to the Death Legion to make a military contribution." "You don't have to go to the Death Legion to make a military contribution. I'll write you a letter. There's a lieutenant in the barbarian army who is my brother. Maybe he can take care of you. You can join another army. That way you won't have to die," Zhang Xiong said. Yang Wu said gratefully, "Thank you, Mayor Zhang. If you want to thank someone, thank Mississippi. She wants to see you," Zhang Xiong said. He paused for a moment and said, "To be honest, I really don't want you to see Mississippi. If it weren't for the fact that you saved the warden, I would have killed you right now." Zhang Xiong's body exuded a fierce aura. Yang Wu, who was unprepared, felt extremely uncomfortable in his chest. Fortunately, Zhang Xiong didn't really make a move and quickly withdrew his aura. At this time, Yang Wu came to his senses. It seemed that his current strength was still not worth mentioning in the eyes of others. The feeling of worship just now disappeared and was replaced by a kind of sigh. There's always someone better than you. The current Yang Wu wasn't enough to be proud. If he relaxed even a little bit, he would definitely die on the battlefield in the future. Yang Wu and Wan Lanxin didn't meet in the prison yard. Instead, they met in a hidden corner of the mountain prison in the first district. There were a few old pine trees here, and some weeds grew out of the rock. They grew tenaciously despite the wind and water. Wan Lanxin was still wearing her armor. Her exquisite figure was full of wild temptation. She sat on a rock and leaned against an old tree trunk. The leopard lay on the side and dozed off. It was a picture of beauty and the beast. After Zhang Xiong brought Yang Wu here, he tactfully retreated, leaving only Yang Wu and Wan Lanxin. Wan Lanxin stood up and walked over to Yang Wu. Yang Wu looked at the valiant Wan Lanxin and grinned foolishly. If he hadn't made a promise with that slug in his heart, He felt that Wan Lanxin's position in his heart would be the most important. Wan Lanxin came in front of Yang Wu and reached out her delicate hand to wipe away the dried blood on Yang Wu's face. She asked, "Are you tired?" She was like a daughter-in-law waiting for her husband to come back from farming. She felt sorry for her husband. Yang Wu smiled and said, "I'm not tired. But I feel sorry for you." Wan Lanxin replied in her heart, but she didn't say it out loud. She just smiled faintly and said, "It's good that you're not tired. I've prepared some food and wine for you. Come and eat." Yang Wu nodded and let Wan Lanxin pull his arm and walked towards the rock. There was a big bowl of meat, a plate of steamed buns, a stack of peanuts, and a jug of wine. They were all still warm, and it was obvious that they had just been sent here. Yang Wu's stomach was rumbling with hunger after the battle. He first grabbed a steamed bun and stuffed it into his mouth. Then, he picked up a large piece of meat and put it into his mouth. The way he ate wasn't refined at all. Wan Lanxin calmly watched Yang Wu eat. She didn't say anything, but her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of reluctance. After a while, the big bowl of meat and steamed buns were gone. Only peanuts and a jug of wine were left. Yang Wu threw a few peanuts into his mouth and drank a big mouthful of wine before saying, "Sister Lanxin, I've gathered 100,000 kilograms of red steel rocks. And I know. After today you can leave this place. However, the future will be even more dangerous. You have to take care of yourself." Wan Lanxin lightly replied, "Don't worry, I won't die until I'm cleared of this injustice." Yang Wu's expression was extremely resolute. He paused and said, "Sister, I want to ask you for something. Please promise me." "Say it." "As long as I can do it," Wan Lanxin seriously replied. "I have two friends here. One is called Sun Do, known as Shou Ho, and the other is Little Man. I've gathered enough red steel rocks for them. I'll bring Shou Ho to the battlefield to continue to gain merit and get rid of the title of prison slave. However, Little Man is a servant girl. Once she is exiled, there will be many inconveniences. So, I want to ask you to keep her by your side and give her some peace." Yang Wu spoke out the request in his heart. Shou Ho's talent was not bad. Yang Wu felt that he would become a great person in the future. The prerequisite was that he could survive on the battlefield. Their lives were the same. As for Little Man, she was a woman disguised as a man. If her identity was exposed, there would be no small amount of trouble. This was the reason why Yang Wu was worried. "All right, I'll do as you say." Wan Lanxin agreed without even thinking about it. "Then many thanks. When I survive on the battlefield and bring glory to my Yang family, I'll definitely treat you to a drink." Yang Wu said incomparably happily. "Only treat me to a drink?" Wan Lanxin asked back. Yang Wu touched the bridge of his nose and asked, "Then Sister Lanxin, what else do you want? As long as I can do it, I'll do as you say." "I want you," Wan Lanxin said in her heart. She did not say it out loud. It was not that she was shy and did not dare to say it, but she did not want to give him any pressure. She also did not want to burden him. There was still an insurmountable gap between the two of them. Yang Wu saw that Wan Lanxin did not say anything and took out an item. It was impressively 8 flower seeds. It was the one he had obtained from the strange flower in the blood pit. There were a total of 108 seeds. He had already kept them with him. Now, he took out 8 seeds and gave them to Wan Lanxin, saying, "Sister Lanxin, I obtained these flower seeds from the blood pit. They will be of great benefit to your cultivation. Treat it as a little gift before I leave." Wan Lanxin looked at the glistening flower seeds in Yang Wu's palm and knew that these were not ordinary items. She did not stand on ceremony with Yang Wu and put away the 8 flower seeds, saying, "It seems that you have gained a lot from the blood pit. Otherwise, your strength would not have increased so quickly. And, in order to get rid of my current identity and to restore my Yang family's reputation, I must become strong as soon as possible. I do not want to become a fish on the chopping block." Yang Wu calmly replied, "You can definitely do it." Wan Lanxin cheered for Yang Wu. Yang Wu and Wan Lanxin calmly chatted for a while. There was not much reluctance, and they quickly separated. Wan Lanxin agreed to let Zhang Xiong arrange for his people to count the red steel ores and redeem Yang Wu, Shouho, and little man Yang Wu felt that everything was in order and that nothing would go wrong, so he returned to the second district to wait for the good news. Unfortunately, the good news did not come. Instead, an imperial edict arrived at the Wolf Smoke Mountain prison. Along with the imperial edict came a 5,000-man army. They were transferred from the barbarian army. Every one of them was filled with hostility, and their battle aura was exposed. Everywhere they went, dust would fly, and their momentum was grand. The arrival of the imperial edict and 5,000 soldiers shook the entire mountain prison and changed the situation there. Wan Tianlong's position as prison warden was removed and replaced by the new Wei Dian. Lai Feng was still the deputy warden, and Zhang Xiong was promoted to the position of deputy warden. Wan Tianlong was summoned back to the capital to take up a post. However, his position was now in name only. He was only an honorary prison warden general with no real power to speak of. Wan Tianlong was promoted in name only but demoted in secret. He no longer held as much power as he did in the mountain prison. As for Lai Feng, who wanted to become prison warden, it was all for naught. He was unable to adjust his position. Zhang Xiong, on the other hand, took another step forward. Even he was surprised. As for the 5,000 soldiers, they were here to repair the damage that the wolf demon had inflicted on the mountain prison. These 5,000 soldiers were old soldiers who had killed the barbarian suppression army on the battlefield. Their battle prowess was much stronger than the original wardens. With them guarding the mountain prison, it was even more powerful. The red steel ores were only an ordinary material for refining weapons. However, they were used by all the armies of the Great Xia dynasty to refine weapons. Thus, they could not afford to lose them. The first thing the new prison warden Wei Dian did was not to set up the mountain prison's defense line. Instead, he ordered people to escort the prison slave Yang Wu to be executed.